Again, going to a knee. You can doubt the Chiefs. You can dislike the Chiefs. You can disrespect the Chiefs. You're going to have to deal with the Chiefs being the first team in National Football League history to win back-to-back Super Bowls and go to the Super Bowl for a chance for a three-peat. The Kansas City Chiefs have just done something that's never been done, and the Kansas City Chiefs Kingdom rocket has gone past Pluto. The Chiefs win the AFC Championship 32-29.
Turn me up, Mitch Holthus. Let's get it on a Victory Monday here on 580 Sports Talk. For the third year in a row, the fifth time in 6 years, the day after the AFC Championship game is a Victory Monday on the sports voice of Kansas. The Chiefs are Super Bowl bound once again. Welcome into the program. So glad to have you along on 580 WIBW FM 104.9, 580 WIBW.com, and on our video stream. You can watch us live and in living color on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and on Facebook at WIBW News. How's everyone doing out there? I'm Dan Lucero. Brendan Dworzinski is with us. Spencer Dupuis will indeed be along in a bit. No, he is not taking the day off to mourn his Washington Commanders. He will be in with us in just a little bit. The gang will all be here to talk Championship Sunday and another Chiefs AFC Championship. 5 in 6 years. 5 Super Bowls in 6 years. You can start there. That's never been done. 3 in a row while winning the first 2 has never been done. Heck, 3 in a row has only ever been done 3 other times. 4 if you want to count the Bills going to 4 in a row. You're in rarefied air just getting to 3 in a row. But if the Chiefs can win in New Orleans over the Philadelphia Eagles in 2 weeks, they will have done something that no one has done in the Super Bowl era, in an era with free agency and the salary cap and the league's structure desperately trying to drag teams back to mediocrity. Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and the rest of the Kansas City Chiefs remain above it all, remain untouchable in the AFC. The Arrowhead Invitational goes once again to the Chiefs. We are going to talk a lot about it today, and we want to hear from you, Chiefs Kingdom fans out there. Hit us up on the text line. 785-272-9429 is the number, 785-272-9429. You can also get in the YouTube stream and chat with us throughout the show. There's a live chat feature on our YouTube channel. Once again, that is 580 Sports Talk. The live chat is visible on the web browser or on the mobile app, and you can interact with us and interact with your fellow listeners throughout the program today. We'd love to hear from you throughout the show. Like I said, it's going to be very football-centric today, and sure, we'll get to some college basketball in the 5 o'clock hour, and we'll talk a little bit about the NFC title game at some point. We'll also have all the other stuff you've come to know and love from a Monday edition of the program, like Good, Bad, Ugly from the weekend, and What is Wrong with You, and our 580 Sports Talk headlines. But we are Chiefs-centric today on the program. Our guest, Matt Verderame, will join us bottom of the 3 o'clock hour from Sports Illustrated. Our NFL Insider is going to join us to talk about Championship Sunday and start our look ahead to Super Bowl 59. It is a Super Bowl 57 rematch. It is the Chiefs. It is the Eagles in New Orleans. Immortality, 1 win away for the Chiefs. Man, there's a lot to take away from last night's game, which was every bit the epic that we were promised and that we expected and that we hoped for from these two teams and these two quarterbacks. But at the end of the day, it remains true that nobody's best is better than the Chiefs' best. And you are not getting anything less than the best from the Chiefs this time of year. You are never not going to get a prepared, a confident, a steady Chiefs performance. And you're better, you're best, you're special. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter who your quarterback is, your running back, what you do on defense, who your head coach is. Your best is not better than the Chiefs' best?
I just have no time or energy or desire to talk to anyone who wants to do the ref thing. That was a great football game, all things considered. Just a great game. You had 2-star quarterbacks. You had bold decisions by each team. Both teams came up with big defensive plays in big moments. The Chiefs bigger than those of the Bills. But, I mean, it was just all around everything you could hope for from a conference championship game. A game that we were not the only ones to say it. Many around football believed that that was the true Super Bowl, if you will. And each team got some breaks. Yeah, Chiefs got lucky with a bad spot on a fourth down. Josh Allen had it. Like I have no problem saying it. He absolutely had the first down, and I don't really think there's a question about it. You know what else Josh Allen got? A fumble that was knocked out of his hands and somehow right back into his 14-inch hands, and the Chiefs never even got a chance to get it. Then there was a fumble that the Chiefs lost that the Bills picked up, and then there was another fumble the Bills lost that they got back, and another one they lost and got back, and then another one that they fumbled and got back. 5 fumbles in one game, all recovered by the Bills. Every single one of them. That is almost impossible. Like statistically, probability-wise speaking, almost impossible. The breaks evened out over the course of the game. So I'm just going to get that out of the way, Dan, because I don't want to talk about any of that crap. It's not worth it. Xavier Worthy's catch was clean. The spot, yeah, it was bad. The Bills recovered 5 fumbles. And then...
You know what? The great ones leave no doubt. Like, at the end of the day, if you're talking about a judgment call or a call that, they couldn't overturn it with the video evidence, the great ones leave no doubt. That's how this works. Over the course of 60 minutes, the great teams leave no doubt.
And in the end, on the most important play of the game, it's 4th down and 5 for the Bills. Let's rewind, actually. 2 most important plays of the game for the Buffalo Bills. 3rd down on 10, and then I think it was 3rd and 10, 3rd and 9, whatever it was, and then 4th down. It was 3rd and 10. They threw a screen pass to Amari Cooper, who, I think it was his first game with the Bills. Hey, this is a nice improvement. I thought he might have a big game in this game yesterday. They threw a screen to him. He bobbled the ball, fell down, and got 5 yards on a play that probably should have gotten them a first down, or at least set up 4th and 1.
Honestly, you look at like the dots, the Amazon dots, that might have been a touchdown.
Yeah.
That was a cover 0 call by the Chiefs, and a screen to the perimeter against the cover 0. A lot of times that's 6 points, but you're just a little bit off in the execution. The throw isn't perfect. Mm-hmm. It slows the play down just a bit. Spencer Brown kind of falls down, doesn't get a clean block on Shamari Connor. Mm-hmm. That lets Karlaftis get out to the perimeter because his motor's never not running on 8th gear. Mm-hmm. And he gets to the perimeter, and instead of a big play, a first down, it's a 5-yard gain.
The Chiefs in that situation over the last 7 years always get it right. They always get it right, at least in terms of like setting up the play. The only time that it's ever gone wrong, frankly, was the 21 season AFC Championship game when Mahomes had a bad second half, then got picked off in overtime, and the Bengals went down the field and won. But the setup of that play was fine. You know what went wrong? Tyreek Hill dropped the ball. It hit him right in the hands and popped up into the air, and the Bengals intercepted it. That's what went wrong on that play. So when the Chiefs make a mistake, like they did on the drive prior, when Patrick Mahomes turfed a ball to Xavier Worthy, that's kind of lost to time because the Chiefs won. That was terrible. Like, that's one of the worst clutch throws I've ever seen Patrick Mahomes make. He turfed it. So when you get a gift by the Chiefs not getting a touchdown, and then you bungle a 3rd and long play like that should have been an explosive, major black mark. 4th down then. What does Steve Spagnuolo love to do more than anybody else? Next to Brian Flores, blitz. Blitz. And when you go to a condensed formation, he's going to blitz you.
With a defensive back.
In that situation.
With a defensive back. He is going to split you if you are in a blitz you if you are in a condensed formation. Everybody gets to sound like an expert on this 4th down play, by the way, because everybody has written about it.
Everybody. The Bills slid the protection to the other side. They admitted it in the postgame. They said, he was clearly waiting for that moment all game. How were you not waiting? And we'll get to that more later. I have some thoughts about the coaching mismatch in this game. But that, to me, is much more of a difference than any sort of nonsense Warren Sharp, Adam Schefter narrative you want to weave about this game. The Chiefs when they made a mistake, they made up for it. When the Bills got gifts, they were not able to take advantage of it at the end of the game. And that's the difference. Mahomes was as efficient as he has ever been. Most efficient game, according to Next Gen Stats, in terms of EPA and success rate of the entire season for Patrick Mahomes. He threw 4 passes over 10 yards down the field. 4. 26 attempts, 22 of them were 9 yards or fewer down the field. And you know what he did all game? Open, catch and run, first down. Open, catch and run, up, 2nd and 1. Just tore them apart. And they had absolutely no answer for it. The execution, the game awareness, the situational awareness, it all favored the Chiefs. And I don't, like, if you're blaming Josh Allen for this game, you didn't watch, because Josh Allen was awesome. Aside from the first, 2 drives when he was like real nervous,
a little overamped, maybe.
That was what I thought that might be a blowout early, because he looked terrible on 2 drives, then settled in and looked awesome. He was great.
That throw to Mac Hollins is like it might lead the highlight reel of the career of Josh Allen. That throw was so good.
It was so good, but it's like so many plays that are lost to time because they were great but came in a crushing loss. So you just remember how the game ended. He was awesome, but the little things matter. And we talked about it all last week leading into the game. No team is better in these situations at the little things than Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and the Chiefs. And that's your difference.
Mahomes put on a masterclass last night. I don't know that I've seen him be a whole lot better than that without putting up like googly eye passing numbers. And I got to tell you, I don't know that I've seen him look as fast as I did last night. A lot of times you think back about some of the playoff runs the Chiefs have been on. He's been working through an injury, right? Like 2 years ago when they beat the Eagles in Super Bowl 57, he had the injury against Jacksonville. So he wasn't exactly spry in that AFC title game against the Bengals or in that Super Bowl against the Eagles. We think about him looking a little bit banged up. Last night, I mean, he still has that funny running style. I think it was Drew McGarry of Defector who described him as moving like he urgently needs to get to a rest stop bathroom when he runs, which I think is a great example of his running style or a great analogy. But like he looked quick getting to the edge on some of those option plays, which, by the way, the Chiefs were running option with Patrick Mahomes like he was the quarterback in Navy. And it was working. It worked for a touchdown. Mahomes with design run plays. How many design runs they called for Mahomes all season before last night?
Exactly 0.
None. They called as many design runs for you and for me as they called for Patrick Mahomes this season. And they had a design run called for him on a 4th down in their own territory in the first half while they were losing. They had a designed run called for him on a 1st and goal while they were losing. And those plays worked. First multi-rushing touchdown game of Mahomes' career. It always seems to be something like that, something special. The Bills had special individual efforts last night. We mentioned Allen. James Cook scoring on that 4th down and goal. Unbelievable effort. Again, one of those that'll be lost to time, but that was an incredible play. Jordan Phillips with the sack. The one time.
Kansas native Jordan Phillips.
Yeah, Circle High School. Pancake. Like he drove Mike Caliendo into the quarterback. The only time we noticed Caliendo since he started playing in a negative way. And that was a massive play in the game because it turned what felt like was going to be a Chiefs touchdown drive into they had to settle for 3. And the Bills had 3.5 minutes to get down the field and at least tie it. And they couldn't do it. Like all these special performances and extra efforts, the Bills left it all out there. And it just does not matter when you play the Chiefs because they do it better than you and they're inches better every time.
I know I've spent a lot of time since the games ended yesterday, listening to a couple podcasts and I saw some TV stuff and have obviously been online all day. I haven't seen anyone talk about how James Cook left the game with 4 minutes left, that he left the stadium. I haven't heard anything about that. You would think when the guy outside your quarterback who's had the best game of anyone on your offense just walks out of the stadium and isn't there for the final drive, you'd think you would hear about that. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm actually getting word he was there and dressed and healthy and ready to go. And after he had a major game in which the Chiefs really couldn't stop him, they did not give him a touch on the final drive of the game. Huh.
Yeah.
Again. What is that?
There's such a huge coaching difference between the Chiefs and everyone else. And one of the ways in which you see that play out is the Chiefs don't have any panic in them. The Chiefs are behind in the 4th quarter. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll get the points we need. We'll get the play we need. We'll get the stop we need. Spags gonna dial something up. We'll get the stop. We'll get the first down we need to kill this game. Chris Jones, after that 4th down play, which I'm not going to be too hard on Dalton Kincaid for dropping that ball. He has to come back to the ball. That's a difficult catch. That's not a routine catch by any stretch of the imagination. I know that there are people.
Let's not compare it to Mark Andrews last week, right?
I know that there are people, our old pal Jake LeBon would be one of them, who say if it hits you in the hands, you should catch it.
Yep.
That's not an easy catch. Like, that's not a routine play that Dalton Kincaid is going to make, or any tight end is going to make 10 times out of 10. It's a miracle the ball even got there. I think it was Jalen Watson say he lost it in the lights. Like, it got so far up there.
You want to talk about narratives? Remember that whole story from Jesse Newell earlier in the season about the lights at Arrowhead at night games?
Yeah.
How guys can't track it when it goes up high in the air?
Yeah, we talked about that a lot last year when the Chiefs had all those drops.
Yeah.
We're like, yeah, this is maybe one of the reasons why. Yeah, one of those things. So that play ends, and Chris Jones embraces Deion Dawkins, the Bills left tackle. And those two were both acting like two guys that knew the game was over. Now, it was very much not over. The Chiefs actually ended up having to get 2 first downs inside the final 2 minutes because Isaiah Pacheco stepped out of bounds inexplicably, trying to extend a play. Dude, just know what you cannot do in that situation.
Oh, you want to go back to getting a gift and not being able to make anything of it if you're the Bengal or the Bills? They got new life for no reason. There was no good reason at all that game continued.
And still, like, in that moment, Deion Dawkins embracing Chris Jones, those were two guys that knew, one on the team that was going to win and one on the team that was not. Those were two guys that knew the game was over. That there was nothing more to be done because whatever was going to happen was already preordained. It was inevitable because the Chiefs do what they do. There was no panic. Oh, are the Chiefs going to throw on 3rd and 9? Yeah, of course they are. And they're going to get the first down. Now, it is very funny that it was the only touch of the game for Samaje Perine, who
that was
sometimes
awesome.
you forget he's on the team.
Awesome.
And then you see him out there on a pivotal 3rd down and like, okay, well, he's either in there for pass protection or they're going to throw it to him.
But there's the thing. There's the wrinkle, right? Like, oh, yeah, he's going to be in there to protect on this play. There's no way that guy is going to end up being going to get the game winner, the dagger. That's the coaching mismatch was huge. And again, we'll get to it a little bit more later on. But look, I give the Bills a lot of credit. I don't think the Bills played badly.
No.
I don't think Sean McDermott and Joe Brady coached especially well. But I think the Bills as a whole played the game really, really well. Drew Tranquill, who known feisty guy, love Drew Tranquill, known feisty guy, went on Twitter after the game and said, nothing but respect for the Bills. Like, they played a great game. These two teams do not have that sort of mutual respect. The quarterbacks do, but the teams really haven't shown that. That was just a great game. Like, that's what you live for in this moment. I thought it was awesome. I thought it was so fun from beginning to end. It was a fun chess match. I thought the Chiefs up front played about as well as I would have hoped. I'm a little surprised the Bills didn't run Allen more than they did. I will say I did get nervous on that 2nd and 11 run. The scramble for the first down on the Bills' last drive. He picked that up, and Jalen Watson's running back. He's running with his man down the field, and Allen's right behind him. And I thought, not that about Watson specifically, but I thought, ooh, this feels like the legacy play right here. Like, Josh Allen just picked this up. If they can get this down the field, like, we're going to remember that run the way we remember some of these Patrick Mahomes runs over the last couple of years. Although even more like pronounced because Allen doesn't have as many of those plays because he's never won a Super Bowl. So that was the one moment where I thought, oh, the Bills may have enough juice offensively to get this done. They really might. But again, why not go back to Cook?
Because they panicked. They were in a hurry. They got themselves
panic.
in a hurry.
It was absolutely panic. You are completely right about that. And the Chiefs didn't have that. They were completely cool, calm, and collected during that entire situation. Even though the Bill, I keep calling them the Bengals. The Bills put up a ton of points in the game. They were not shaken. The Chiefs were not in the final moments of it. Just tremendous. Ready, born for the moment. They were made for this, to use that cliche, but it is true. They were made for that moment.
I love Joe's comment here in the YouTube live chat. Jump on in the YouTube 580 Sports Talk. That was the least nervous championship game I've watched. It felt like Pat would not let them lose. Yeah, it never really felt like, even going into the game, like I all the advanced stats kind of leaned toward the Bills. A lot of the metrics said that the Bills were the superior team throughout the year. Obviously, they had the regular season win. But whenever anyone would ask me, and I said on the show, yeah, I think the Chiefs are going to win. Why? Because why would I think they're going to lose? Why would I think that the Chiefs would lose the game? We were saying this last year. We'll say it again this year. Sometimes you win because you know how to win. Sometimes the winning becomes such a habit that you just go out and you do it. And that's what the Chiefs do.
I would like to address one point about the Bills' strategy I actually didn't have a problem with. I did not love the game that Joe Brady called, all things considered. But we saw it a little bit. I can't remember who mentioned it, but somebody who was watching along on the YouTube live stream mentioned it last night. And if you want to go check out our instant reaction, go check it out at the 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel. And I heard it on a show this morning, and I saw people tweeting about it all and posting on Blue Sky about it all night. The Bills going for 2 twice and failing both times. And, well, they chased points. You can't chase points. Here's the thing about chasing points. It's literally the entire point of football is to score more points.
It's so funny when people say, oh, don't chase points. Like, don't you need to score them to win? Why wouldn't you go and try and get them?
And I thought both times the Bills went for it, and yes, they failed. And that is the gamble you take. But I thought both times the reasoning was sound. They were down 16 to 20, 21 to 16. If you get 2, a field goal game is a way bigger deal. Being up 3 instead of up 4 is a way bigger deal than being down 4 or down 5. Like, because, okay, well, you need a touchdown either way. I thought that was very sound logic. The second time, they go up 22-21. Being up 3 is a much, 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 much bigger deal than being up either 1 or 2. Because, you're trailing with a field goal versus tied. I thought the decision-making was frankly sound on both of them. But again, that's where you talk about winning on the margins, having the right plays at the right time. The Chiefs, Andy Reid, more conservative than he should be as a play caller and as a late game decision maker, in my opinion. Not on third downs late. He's very good on third downs late. But in terms of going for 2, going for the touchdown instead of the field goal near the goal line, called the 2-point play at the exact right time. Execution was perfect. And there's one of your big differences in the game.
And you call that's a time you go for 2 when you don't think the other team can stop you, when you feel like you can do whatever you want on offense. And the reason the Chiefs had that feeling, it was very justified, was because Mahomes was incredible. It was a 99th percentile game in Mahomes' career in terms of drop-back success rate. There were only 4 games this entire season across the NFL where a quarterback had produced a successful play at a higher rate than Mahomes did last night. It was, in fact, this is from Sheil Kapadia of The Ringer, the highest drop-back success rate in a single game of Mahomes' entire career.
Yeah, it's crazy. It really is crazy. By the way, the other note I wanted to bring up, and Christopher mentioned it here on YouTube, they already did have a point on the board, then took it off because of the penalty and went for it. I would have done the exact same thing. Like, again,
you're at the 1-yard line, and you have the greatest short yardage weapon in football in Josh Allen, except the Chiefs were reading the mail. And that was a recurring theme of the night. The Chiefs being able to neutralize that weapon. It was huge in that moment, kept it a 5-point game. It was also huge in the fourth quarter on that 4th and 1 stop.
Just so ludicrous. Hey, Dan, let's go play hide and seek. By the way, I'm going to hide under the table. Okay, so you seek. I'm going to hide down here. That's what the Bills were doing the whole game. Every short yardage play, it was left guard.
The same cadence, and the Chiefs knew it and were so confident in their knowledge that they told Jim Nantz and Tony Romo about it during the week.
Nantz called it out. Yeah, and look, I think Jim Nantz does a great job. I don't exactly think Jim Nantz is Bill Walsh with the X's and O's up in the booth, okay? And he was like, oh, yeah, they want to sneak it over left guard. And they did over and over and over. And it was not working. It's the Kyle Shanahan thing from a year ago. Like, if you're not prepared in that moment, then you have no one to blame but yourself if you end up losing the game. Then it was the clock in overtime. Here was the short yardage situational game planning. The Chiefs were ready for it, and the Chiefs won the game. That's your big difference right there. It's the little things. When everything else is even, winning on the margins is going to decide championships. And the Chiefs get it right, and other teams almost always have happened to get it wrong.
You might beat them, but you're never going to out-prepare them. And the reason that nobody in the AFC has been able to beat them for the last 3 years is nobody out-prepares the Kansas City Chiefs. And so it is, off to a 3rd consecutive Super Bowl and a 5th in 6 years. 5 in 6 years, unprecedented in the Super Bowl era. Lots more to say about this game. Matt Verderame, our NFL Insider, is going to join us in a bit. We're going to hand out some game balls. We want your comments, 785-272-9429 on the text line, and, of course, on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. Get on in here. It's a celebration on a Victory Monday on 580 Sports Talk. got our NFL Insider Matt Verderame coming up in just a moment to break down Championship Sunday in the NFL. But first, let's give out some game balls for the Chiefs. 32-29 victory over the Bills in the AFC title game. Incredible bit. The Chiefs waiting until the AFC title game to score 30.
It is very fun.
And needing to score 30 and then doing it. There's just, again, further proof. The Chiefs are just going to do whatever they need to do to win a game at a given time. If they don't need 30, they're not going to go get 30. And when they needed 30, they went and got 30. Yeah. Incredible bit. Big part of the reason why my game ball, Xavier Worthy. 6 catches, 85 yards, had a touchdown, continues to be utilized in a lot of unique ways by the Chiefs. They've done a really, really good job playing to his strengths, and he has evolved into quite a player. I think the Chiefs really have something special in Xavier Worthy. And it is very funny that the Bills traded the Chiefs the picks that became both Worthy and Patrick Mahomes. And now they can't beat these guys.
My game ball, I'm not giving it to a player. I'm giving it to Spags. Without
Spags, we trust.
No, he's the best of the best. No defensive coordinator in history is better. To be maybe not the most innovative, but best coordinators ever. Buddy Ryan. How many Super Bowls did he win?
Just one.
Yep. How many did Belichick win as a coordinator?
Yeah, just the one with over the Bills. Yeah.
Yeah. You could put most of the best of all time together. And I know his team's got quarterbacks and a head coach and all that. Now Spags is right there as the best to ever do it.
Spencer Dupuis, game ball for the Chiefs.
Nico Remigio, he's a guy that's been a borderline fringe roster guy, gets the call up to the roster once McCole Hardman goes on the injured reserve. He's the return guy, and what does he do? He makes a big difference for you in the return game, including one punt return, 41 yards that set them up for an eventual touchdown.
Yeah, he looks like a weapon right now for the Chiefs. They look very dangerous on special teams thanks to Remigio. We're taking a timeout. Matt Verderame joins us next on 580 Sports Talk. We are joined on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline by our NFL insider, Matt Verderame of Sports Illustrated and SI.com. You can also find him around the internet. Just searching by name, Matt Verderame. Find the Matt Verderame Show, his subscriber-only Patreon for great insider info. You can catch him on that football show on the KC Sports Network and hear him here every Monday on 580 Sports Talk. Matt, Chiefs did it again, and I think it comes down to, we started at the top of the show saying the Chiefs' best is just better than anybody else's best. And I think they got Buffalo's best shot yesterday, just about. And it wasn't enough for Buffalo because their better isn't better than the Chiefs' better.
No, look, I think there's a lot of things that game comes down to. And they could have played that game 10 times and maybe the Bills won 4 of them. But I think when thinking about how that game could play out, my first thought all week was, if Buffalo does not get home, they're cooked. They will lose. And they didn't get home. And they got cooked. Like, this has been a theme for them in every single one of these losses in the playoffs, Kansas City. Every one of them. Point to anyone in the postseason. In 4 games now against the Chiefs in the playoffs, they have 5 sacks. You got no shot. You got no shot. He fumbled the ball a million times. 2 balls should have been picked off, but they weren't. But overall, he played well. They ran the ball, fairly effectively. But in the end, the Bills made the little mistakes and then a big mistake at the end with Kincaid's drop, if you want to call it that. Tough catch, but probably should have had it. That in the end results in the Chiefs going to the Super Bowl again and the Bills going home.
Patrick Mahomes posted the highest drop back success rate in a single game of his entire career last night. Is that as good as maybe he's ever been top to bottom in a postseason game?
Close. I think the best I ever saw him play, ironically, was against Buffalo in the 13 seconds game. I don't think you could. I don't think genuinely you could play a better game than he played that night. I think that's one of the top 5 quarterback games of all time. But last night, look, he had the fumble on the missed RPO read. But other than that, he was flawless. He made every run he had to make. He was responsible for 3 touchdowns. His throws were not only on target, they were perfect. I mean, they were just, guys were hitting the ball, catching the ball in stride. All the reads were crisp. His throws were crisp. Everything they did. And it's to kind of speak to the overall, the first question and this one. It's the little things. It's getting to the line quickly on 4th and 1 and catching Buffalo completely off guard. It's doing it again on the throw to Pacheco that was the next to last first down. It is understanding how to out-leverage Buffalo in their own calls. Like, that's the stuff that if you look at a box score, you don't see. But when you watch the game, it's so crucial, and there's nobody better at doing stuff like that. It doesn't show up in yardage or yards per attempt or his touchdown to interception ratio. But when you watch the game, it makes an absolutely massive difference.
What do you think made this game the opportune time for the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes to use him as a runner as often and as effectively as they were able to last night?
The Bills played a lot more man coverage than they normally do. And I think Mahomes realized it early on in the game. So that's cool. If you want to turn your back, I'm going to run. And look, I think he's always been more of a runner in the playoffs. He's talked about that hey, I will run more in the postseason because it matters more. I don't think in the regular season he keeps that ball that he scored on. I think he would have handed it off to Kareem Hunt. And they would have gotten there 3 or 4 yards and been fine with it. But it's the NFC Championship game, and it's the 4th quarter. And I think Mahomes looked at it and was like, I'm going. I don't care. Maybe he slides for 8 yards if it's week 11. He wasn't going to slide there. I think it's just an overall mentality. I mean, it's not just Mahomes, it's the whole team. So whatever it takes. Whatever it takes to win the game. And we saw that. I mean, look, that play where they stuffed Allen, and like, I get it's controversial. That's fine. They stopped him. Okay, the official record shows they stopped him. Frankly, I think they did stop him. That's one of the great defensive plays of the season. I mean, here's a guy who's 6'4" and 250 pounds, and he's a foot, and just gets stonewalled at the line by like 4 different guys. It's the level of effort that they play with in these games, combined with their talent and their preparation, they're brutal. They're brutal to deal with. And that's why they're in their 5th Super Bowl in 6 years.
Matt Verderame joins us here on 580 Sports Talk. He covers the National Football League for Sports Illustrated and SI.com. Also, the Matt Verderame Show on Patreon and that football show at the KC Sports Network. Joins us every Monday on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. That was one of the big defensive plays of the year, Matt, but maybe even a little bit behind on that overall list. The corner blitz on 4th down and 5 for the Bills. You mentioned the play a few moments ago, the effort by Kincaid, the frankly incredible throw by Josh Allen under pressure there.
Yeah.
The boldness of Steve Spagnuolo in that situation. We know condensed formation, he's going to send the house. We know that. But to blitz your best defensive back on that play, season on the line kind of play, to me, that's as gutsy as it gets. Take me back to that play and what impressed you the most about everything that unfolded on 4th and 5.
So there's actually a lot about that play that I found really interesting. That I haven't really seen. I'm sure it's been talked about, but I haven't. I've been traveling the Mobile, so I haven't seen it. Number one, so they blitz McDuffie off of the boundary side because he's on the right-hand side if you're looking at it from the Bills' perspective. And the Bills are on the right hash. So he's on the short side of the field, so to speak. And if you're the Chiefs, you know Allen's not going to roll left. Like, if anything, it's either a straight drop or they're going to roll him to the right. So I think that probably factored into some degree. McDuffie's their best blitzing corner. They probably figure, look, we're going to blitz. Let's blitz with him. Let's try to get a ton of pressure. Reed also blitz. He's a great blitzer as a safety. So they deployed their 2 best blitzing DBs and took a shot there. That's number one. I think it is interesting they did it from that side. I think that was a calculated risk. But the one thing that I thought was fascinating about it, the pre-snap motion by Shakir, which is that orbit return where he goes half around and came back, that is something that the Bills did to the Chiefs in the divisional round last year on a 4th and 4. And they hit it for a big gainer. They had McDuffie on Shakir. It was man coverage, and the Chiefs just got lost in the sauce, and Shakir got it easily. And this time, the Chiefs played zone. And I would guarantee, I bet almost any amount of money, the Bills went into that play thinking there is no way that the Chiefs aren't going to play man on this play. And this is a man beater. It's almost impossible to stop if you can execute it. And the Chiefs completely confounded them because they played zone. And I guarantee you, when Allen saw that nobody ran with Shakir on that motion, he was like, that's not great. Problem. Because this is designed to be man coverage. And by the time he had any chance to step back a few steps on the drop, he had so much pressure in his face. Like you said, he made a phenomenal throw. I mean, Kincaid, it's not an easy catch.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's a weird play, but Allen gave him the best shot he could. I just think it's all those things combined that made that a very, very tough play for Buffalo and one they couldn't finish off.
What do you do if you're the Bills? Like, you've got the quarterback. Josh Allen is that dude. He really is that good. Played like an MVP this year. He's awesome. I like some of the talent they've got. They've got decent offensive line play. James Cook is a legit running back 1. Defense, we all know that needs some retooling going forward, some more talent there. Yep. But at the top, even above Allen, I mean, what do you do? We know Joe Brady's coming back, and I think he's a very good offensive coordinator, but not necessarily the play caller that, say, an Andy Reid is. I think Sean McDermott's a good coach, but good coach has gotten them beat, 4 5 times in the playoffs against this team? I mean, do you move forward with him? I just don't know what it's going to take to get this team over the hump. No one's gotten over the Chiefs' hump as of yet, save for 1 year for the Bengals, but I'm just not sure what the Bills can do to take that next step when you've already got an MVP caliber quarterback.
You petition the league to let you go to the NFC. That might be your best shot. No, look, in all seriousness, I think, like I said earlier, it starts with the pass rush. Guys, they've got to get somebody. If they don't, they're just going to lose them again. I don't care how great Allen is. I'm telling you right now, if they go back next year and they play each other in the playoffs again, they can't get pressure, they'll lose again. I don't care what else they do. They will lose. They have to find the guy who's undeniable on the edge. And that's not easy. That's really hard. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying Brandon Beach is able to snap his fingers and do that. I'll tell you right now, if I was the Bills, I'd call up the Raiders. What do you want for Crosby? What do you want? I will give you, what do you want? First round pick? Great. Here it is. Take a third with it. Like, whatever you need. They have to find somebody. They tried to do it with Von Miller. That contract, partially because of age, partially because of injuries, has been a disaster. Rousseau is a good player, but he hasn't justified his first round slot. Epinesa is a guy. He's not a bad player, but he's kind of just a guy. He's a rotational guy. They don't have, the Chiefs can just, hey, we're going to single up Chris Jones. We're going to win. We're going to single up Charles Menahu and George Kalafis, and usually they're going to win. The Bills don't have those guys. Certainly not a Chris Jones type. So I think that's number one. Number two, I think if you're Buffalo, you got to figure out your secondary. Okay, Christian Benford is a good player. That was a scary injury. I hope he's okay. When he went out of that game, Kyrie Irving came in. And I'll be honest with you. After about 5 plays of watching that, I was sitting there thinking to myself, if I was the Chiefs, I would throw at him every play. They have no shot. Like, they have no chance with this guy out here. On any meaningful down, they got to just throw it at him. They need corners. They need to retool their safety. Like, that secondary really outside of Benford and Johnson has to be completely overhauled. It's just not good. They can't cover. So I think that's what you do. Offensively, listen, sure, you love the number one receiver, but like they can make do. They need to fix the secondary, and they have got to find a top-tier edge rusher.
We're joined by Matt Verderame here on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. And Matt, how do you stop Saquon Barkley if you're the Chiefs coming up in the Super Bowl? Obviously, they got 2 weeks to figure it out, but he just seems to be a cheat code for the Eagles. First play of the game, he scores a touchdown.
Yeah. Look, it's going to be really hard, and I don't think they're going to stop him, but you've got to limit him. And I think, the natural inclination is, we'll put 8 in the box. I don't know that that's the answer against him. He's so fast. I think you almost want to kind of build an umbrella and just kind of go to the ball with multiple defenders. It's not as easy as just, hey, we're going to put 7 or 8 guys in the box and choke off the run. You're not able to do that all the time. And sometimes it'll work, but it also opens up huge rushing lanes if you don't get there. I think for the Chiefs, you have to almost come into the game with the mentality of, listen, he's going to get some yards. That's okay. But we cannot let him get the big one. We cannot let him get that 60-yarder like he had against Washington, or the couple of huge runs he had against the Rams. Those kill you. Those send you home. If he rushes 20 times for 100 yards, fine. They're not going to win the game if he does that. Like, if I'm the Chiefs, I would play a ton of man in this game, and Hurts' numbers against pressure this year, they're horrific. I would blitz him to the end of time, and I would just say, look, if we can do anything against Barkley on early downs, we have a great shot to win the game. Because the Eagles this year, they threw for barely 3,000 yards. I think there's a world where if you can win on first down, maybe going a little more base, I think you're in pretty reasonable shape. But it's hard. It's hard. There's no great answer. I would be shocked if the Chiefs come up with some answer where we're sitting here 2 weeks from now going, man, they held them 60 yards. The only way that happens is if the Chiefs just get up on the Eagles early by a couple scores and it forces them to throw. And I wonder, to that point, if the Chiefs come out in that game insanely aggressive on offense and just try to, hey, we're going to, our 30 best plays, here they are to start the game. We're going to try to go 14-0. And put you in a spot where Hurts has to drop back and throw 40 times. Because obviously that's not the way they want to play.
Matt Verderame covers the National Football League for Sports Illustrated, SI.com. Check out his subscriber-only Patreon, The Matt Verderame Show, for more great insider info. He joined us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline every Monday here on 580 Sports Talk. Matt, we'll talk to you again next week when we'll be breaking down another Chiefs Super Bowl and predicting it out all next week. We appreciate your time today.
It sounds good. Take care, guys.
That is Matt Verderame. We will step aside for a timeout, come back, wrap up this first hour of the show with the good, the bad, the ugly. The good, the bad, the ugly from the sports weekend that was. I'll start with the good. The NFC Championship game. That was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that very much. That's my good. Brandon, what was your good from the weekend?
My good for the weekend, I'll give a shout out to the K-State men. That was a good win for them over West Virginia.
17-0
ranked home.
run early in the game. Wow.
And the Washburn men are now 19-0. That ties the program record for wins to start a season. 19-0, housed Missouri Western on
Drop
Saturday.
an anvil on them in their barn. That always feels good.
Yeah.
Spencer, what was your good?
The result wasn't great, but got to cover another KU game at the Mecca of college basketball.
Seemed like a good crowd.
An amazing crowd. I was telling one of the ag guys that I talked to earlier, like a weeknight game versus a weekend game, you're amping it, like your crowd might be there, but they're not going to be as loud if it's not the weekend. And that was one of the loudest crowds I've ever heard. Also, a little bit of breeze coming through there now.
A little more comfortable up there.
Yeah.
Love that.
Not sweltering hot in January.
It's kind of nice in the auxiliary section. My bad for the weekend. The Denver sports were not good on Saturday. Both the Avalanche and the Nuggets lost before dinner time, before dinner was served. So at least I had a chance to get over it.
There you
go
go.
to bed mad, but no, Saturday rough sports day for your boy. Avs and Nuggets tripped on their own 2 feet.
My bad. Ben Solak of ESPN had a take on Twitter last night that Josh Allen made a mistake by not throwing the ball to Khalil Shakir on 4th down and 5. And then in his video of why he believed that, he indicated that Josh Allen should have been able to spin 180 degrees, throw in one motion, accurately leading the receiver who is 15 yards behind the line. Ben, sit this one out.
Is that I believe that's what video gamers call the 360 no scope.
Correct.
Spencer, do you have a bad?
My bad and my ugly will all be in the same one. I'll just go right now. The end of the Commanders-Eagles game. It was just can't turn the ball over. They hadn't turned the ball over in the playoffs really at all, and they had the turnovers. Also want to go back to my good for a second. I forgot.
You got like 1 second.
Tressway, more throws than Dak Prescott in the championship game.
My ugly KU end of game. Oh my God.
Yeah, I can't believe they lost that game. We're going to talk about that in the 5 o'clock hour. We got more Championship Sunday to talk about next hour on 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 2 on a Victory Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk. The gang's all here. Dan, Brendan, Spencer. And we are live on 580 WIBW FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and in living color on our video stream. Check us out on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and on Facebook at WIBW News. If you are not a subscriber to our YouTube channel, by the way, we're a long way. We set a bit of a stretch goal for YouTube subscribers. But if we get to 800 YouTube subscribers, when we get to 800 YouTube subscribers,
that's right,
Brendan and I are going to arm wrestle on camera during an edition of 580 Sports Talk with commentary from Spencer, presumably.
Yeah. You're being enlisted to help.
Play by play for those who are unable to view it live. So subscribe to the YouTube 580 Sports Talk and bring us closer to our goal and our destiny. Brendan and I in the brawl for it all. Wrestling edition.
We had a Butterbean will not be an appearance.
The war to settle the score.
Will Bart Gunn be here? We had a request from Clayton on YouTube earlier that when we get to that point, Dan, you wear a Lucha Libre mask and that I dressed up like Shawn Michaels. Here's the thing. One, do not tempt me with a good time. I will absolutely dress like 1994 Shawn Michaels if given the chance.
I'm gonna need you to wear a shirt.
I have been dying to get a jacket with fringe all over it. You want to put like some sequined tight pants on? Do not tempt me because I will absolutely do that. Or I'm tempted to dress like 2002 Triple H, put my denim vest over the leather jacket. Coolest any man has ever looked, by the way. People are like, no, James Dean and Rebel Without a Cause. No, wrong. Triple H when he came back from that torn quad in 2002. Coolest look ever. He also was on a million steroids. I am not, which alters the appearance a little bit.
Insulin, a PED?
No. Hey, happy diabetes anniversary day, by the way.
Oh.
Exactly half my life now I've had type 1 diabetes.
You probably had it a little before.
Well, yeah, I suppose that's true. That's like Christmas. Like it wasn't Christmas, but like wasn't actually Jesus' birthday, but it's when the wise men showed up. So we just celebrated on the 25th.
Right.
Yeah, like no, I had been having symptoms for like 3 weeks at that point. I had been going to the bathroom every hour on the hour and falling asleep at 6 o'clock every day since like the end of December.
Let's Go Cards 04 on the YouTube live chat. Welcome in. Says enter the studio on a motorcycle.
Yes. Hell yeah. I'm all about it.
Yeah, we'll have our own entrance music, the whole thing. That'll definitely get yanked off of YouTube. We will not get clearance, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. Our YouTube's not monetized. We're just doing it for the love of the game.
Yeah.
We've gotten a number of notifications like, hey, you're using copyrighted material, but you're not making money off of it, so we'll let you go.
There have been a couple.
We've had a couple that were not so friendly. Had to replace it with some rights-free music.
Very funny, right? Honestly, the rights-free music is almost better.
We could do that. It'd be like the old WWE DVDs. I don't know if you were a wrestling fan in your youth. I don't know if you ever owned any like, the best matches of Stone Cold 96 to 99, like videos like that. Whenever there's a wrestler that has music that is an actual song, but the rights aren't cleared, like Sandman from ECW using Metallica, they'll go back, they'll like air it live with the music, but then on reproductions of it, they have to dub over it with something else.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we do that. Like we just strike, go back in and play like lounge music as the intro in the replays.
I never owned any of those DVDs, but I did bootleg Pure Oisu tapes off the internet.
Hell yeah. That rules.
I think I probably still got the CDs around there somewhere.
You got any of those late 90s IWGP championship matches?
Mike Awesome wrestling in New Japan in like 1992.
Yes, please.
Like something called a Piranha Death Match.
I definitely still own the Best of the Undertaker from the 2000s. I definitely have that DVD in my house right now.
That DVD and the SNL Best of Will Ferrell DVD, like those used to feed families back in the day.
8 times platinum, no features.
I have a Dodge Stratus. People are scared of me.
You know, every generation thinks this from when they turned were teenagers that generation was the best. I actually would like to bring back the culture of the 2000s. More Will Ferrell movies when they were actually funny.
No, I do. I think we blew it in the 90s, but like the 90s are kind of whatever. But yeah, the 2000s like the apogee of of pop culture, like new metal.
Yeah,
we need to bring new metal back and very strongly.
Yeah. Fred Durst, anytime you want to come on, we will welcome you to the program. I'm going to reach out. I'm going to find his agency. I'm going to say, Fred Durst, will you come on the show?
New Metal Day on 580 Sports Talk.
I bet he would.
All the bumps are Chevelle and Primer 55 and American Head
Power
Charge.
Man 5000.
A lot of Slipknot. We'll all wear Slipknot masks for a day. Yeah.
I would do that.
This is before your time, Spencer. You just have to trust us.
I'm just letting this conversation ride out and not joining it.
Man, that is wild. Yeah, Corn Blind before your time, man. But there was a moment. You had to be there. Coming up later on this hour, 580 Sports Talk. We'll have a round of What Is Wrong With You, our first of the week. We will react to the NFC Championship game that saw the Eagles with a command performance, pun absolutely intended, in defeating Washington 55-23. I'm sorry, Spencer. Man, like, I am. I'm sorry.
Yeah, what's with the drive-bys? You took one last night on the YouTube stream about a game that's a decade old. Taking shots at me. We were having a nice night, a nice conversation.
Regular season game, man. It was fairly harmless. These aren't personal at all. I'm just trying to get some jokes off.
Listen,
goodness.
You clearly overestimate how much I have going on in my life. I hang on to these games for a long time.
No, brother, I know exactly how much you have going on in your life right now. I've been there.
Crying.
I've lived
and
it.
Poop.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Well,
even less sleep than he got before.
I hate
poop everywhere is a user error. Like,
I know
that sounds like a skill issue to me.
Listen, I know I'm derailing the conversation here. I just saw a viewer tick down on the YouTube stream, so I apologize in advance. This weekend though, we had our first instance of I'm sorry, this was a cute outfit, but it has to go in the trash now.
Mm-hmm.
Had our first one of those.
Hey man, we had one of those coming back from the hospital, bringing Asher home from the hospital. We had one of those, so yeah, it do be like that sometimes. But we want to continue on with obviously the big topic of the day. The Kansas City Chiefs are once again AFC champions, 3 in a row, 5 in 6 years. That's never happened. Making 3 Super Bowls in a row has only ever happened 4 times. No team has ever done it and won the previous 2 before going to the third. 76 Steelers, 90 49ers, 94 Cowboys, all slipped up on Championship Sunday. The Chiefs did not. They beat the Bills 32-29. I forget who made this comparison on Twitter, but I really like it. The Chiefs-Bills rivalry, such as it is, and I think it's fair to call it a rivalry because it's not like the Manning-Brady thing where Brady won all the games until Manning broke through, like even the regular season ones. And the Bills have gotten the measure of the Chiefs in the regular season. They've won the last 4, I think, regular season meetings against the Chiefs. The Chiefs just win all the ones that matter. They win all the important ones. And the comparison, I think, is a fair one, that this is our edition. And again, we're gonna go back again before your time, Spencer, and I apologize for this. This is Bulls Knicks in the 90s, is what this is. Because Mahomes is Jordan and Josh Allen is Patrick Ewing. And it does not matter. It did not matter what the Knicks did. It did not matter how hard they fouled Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. It did not matter how well Patrick Ewing played or how well John Stark shot or how menacingly Charles Oakley would mean mug Ron Harper or whatever. It didn't matter because one team had Jordan and the other didn't. And the other team was great and fondly remembered and legendary in their own right. They had Jordan. Mahomes is Jordan. Here's proof that he's Jordan. These numbers from Josh Dubow of the Associated Press. When Patrick Mahomes is trailing by a score in fourth quarters or overtimes in playoff games, these are his numbers. 40 for 56 passing for 552 yards, 5 touchdowns, no picks, a quarterback rating of 132.2. Oh, yeah, he's also rushed for a touchdown. And the Chiefs have scored on 13 of those 14 drives in which Mahomes has been down a score in winning time in the playoffs. He's Jordan, man. And there's a whole generation of quarterbacks, and Allen is the most prominent of them right now, that can't get around him. And it's no real fault of their own other than you were born at the wrong time and you're not as good as this guy. And the Jordan comparisons kind of started in the Eagles with the Eagles Super Bowl. And I think they've only become more salient over the last 2 years, that's who this guy is. And his ability to not just be great. It's one thing to play well, to be great, to be almost perfect. I don't totally blame Mahomes for the first half fumble. I think Isaiah Pacheco should have probably taken that ball. I think that was obviously the thought that Mahomes had. I think it's a sign that Pacheco's maybe a little rusty. He hasn't looked like himself since he came back from injury. There's a reason Kareem Hunt's getting more of the snaps and all the touches right now. Other than that one play, Patrick Mahomes was flawless. His passes were inch perfect. His reads were perfect. He ran the ball. I think that's the best he's ever run the football in a playoff game. Multiple rushing scores in a game for the first time in his career. And there was a great anecdote in The Athletic today. I don't know if you caught this. Michael Silver of The Athletic wrote about Mahomes and his transformation in games like this. And he got to see a text that Matt Nagy sent his wife from the team hotel before last night's game. And the text was something along the lines of, the transformation is happening. Like, Mahomes is becoming a completely different person right now before my eyes. It's real. Like, this guy is a different animal when the games count this much. And with all due respect to this generation of quarterbacks, they all kind of look like Patrick Ewing to me. There's only one Jordan, and the Chiefs have it. And he was Jordan last night. Like, I asked Matt Verderame in the last segment, or in the bottom of the 3 o'clock hour, is that the best he's ever been in a playoff game? And yeah, like, the numbers were more eye-popping in the 13 seconds game. It was an incredible game, certainly. I don't think Mahomes has ever been better in a playoff game than he was last night. I think it was as good as he's ever been. And it's what it took to get this team over a hump that no other team in their position has ever gotten over.
He was great. The phrase I used, I borrowed it from Nate Tice of Yahoo Sports on Friday. It's brutally efficient, and he is just going to beat you to death with rocks. Like, that's all it is going to be. And it doesn't need to be flashy. It doesn't need to be anything more than that. And it's less fun from a viewership standpoint, just in the sense that, like, everybody loves a deep throw. Everyone loves taking the risky shots down the field. But what is Patrick Mahomes' job when you get right down to it? It's to win football games. It's to find the best way to win as much as possible. And they have found the way to do that. And again, it's just 6 yards, running for catch, first down. 7 yards, running for catch, first down. It is just pound you to death and tear you apart and wear your defense down and complete everything just all the time. And in the one spot where you need to make a throw, you need to show off the arm talent, so to speak, you can do it. And it's not like an Allen who has to do that all the time. You know, that's the difference in why Mahomes is not, for 2 years in a row now, despite being the quarterback of the best team in football and the team that won, and I think will again win the Super Bowl, why he hasn't been in the MVP conversation, because the numbers aren't as eye-popping. And on a week-to-week basis, like the highlights on SportsCenter after the game or NFL Game Day Final or whatever, like, oh yeah, here's a pretty simple pass and here's 4 more, and they worked it right down the field, and then Kareem Hunt scored from the 1. Like, that's not MVP stuff. Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are doing it all game, all the time, which is awesome for those guys. They're great, but they still don't win as much as Patrick Mahomes does.
Nobody
and
does.
He can hang on to those things and keep them locked away until necessary. I mean, it's a machine what this Chiefs team is right now. It's incredible. And I think so much of this comes down to coaching. It's why I asked Matt Verderame when he was on with us at the end of last hour, like, what do you do if you're the Bills? What do you do here? And he joked, you petition to move to the NFC, which was a very funny line. But, like, Josh Allen is an MVP caliber quarterback. I don't think he's going to win the MVP this year, but if they gave him the award, I would not complain. Say, yeah, no, he was great. He was, you want to say he was best quarterback in the league this year? I would absolutely listen to that argument. That'd be great. They've got a really good running back. They could use another receiver, but I don't think their receiver core is bad. Their offensive line has been better. The defense needs some help, but, like, they've gotten the max version of their quarterback, and he might be this version of himself for 4 more years, and yeah, they'll still be in the hunt, still be in contention. But are you hitting your head on the ceiling at this point? because what you're doing is not good enough to beat the Chiefs. And you know how I know that? Because they can't do it when it matters.
They keep trying and they keep falling short. They don't have enough dudes on defense. Not good enough in the secondary.
But they've lost these games when they've had dudes. They had peak Trey White. They had Jordan Poyer. They had Micah Hyde. They had an elite secondary for a few years, and they still couldn't do it.
And they've never had an elite pass rush. And unless they give Greg Rousseau like big dollars this offseason, they're going to lose their guy who was their best pass rusher.
They were trying to do it with a zillion-year-old Von Miller. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
that was a risk, and it really hasn't paid off. And, like, I like Rousseau as a player. Like, he'd be an awesome second pass rusher. But, I mean, I agree with Matt. I think almost every team in the league should go see what they will take to get Max Crosby, to be honest with you. But I just don't know what you do, and that's why I feel like you at least have to consider a future without Sean McDermott, right? Like he's good. I think Sean McDermott is a very good head coach, but very good is not good enough right now. And if you want to get to that ultimate goal, I don't think their current power structure can stay in place. I really don't. Yeah, I'd almost rather just promote Brady, to be honest with you, and take a gamble. Because at this point, I think you have to gamble.
Yeah.
I think you have to take a shot.
Yeah, what's established we know isn't good enough. Like it keeps happening. It's 4 times they have lost in the playoffs to this Chiefs team. Different iterations of this Chiefs teams with elite offenses, Chiefs teams with lesser offenses but great defenses. The edge really does seem to start on the sideline, and there aren't a lot of Andy Reid's out there. He's kind of a one of one, and the way these Chiefs prepare and the way these Chiefs are coached up feels kind of one of one. The biggest coaching point, like the separation being in the preparation, that old cliche, is in the fact that the Bills have what I believe to be one of the great short yardage weapons in the history of the National Football League. And it's Josh Allen. On 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1, Josh Allen that built like a house, and all he has to do is fall forward and get first down. Do it over and over again. It's a huge edge for them, especially in a game like this. When you're 4 downs instead of 3, it helps your offense a lot. And the Bills have the same thing. They don't need to push Josh Allen. Why would you push him? You don't need the help. He's 6'5" and built like a tank. But the Chiefs figured out a way to neutralize what feels unneutralizable. They found a way to limit Josh Allen on short yardage. And it cost the Bills 2 points when they decided to go for that 2-point conversion. And it cost them possession when they didn't get that first down at the Kansas City 41-yard line with just over 12 minutes to play. And that's the kind of thing that you do that, you can push and you can try to get a jump and you can line all your biggest guys up on the line and you can still not stop that play. But it's knowing the tendency, it's knowing the cadence, and knowing exactly how the Bills want to do it. That's how you stop it. And the Chiefs stopped it 3 times and in 2 incredibly critical moments of the game. And that's why you keep winning these games. None of this stuff happens. I said this last night in the instant reaction video. None of this winning happens by accident. None of the stuff that you see, that 4th down stop, that blitz, why it was effective, all of those stops of Allen in short yardage, why the Chiefs were able to run the certain plays. They ran the touchdown run by Mahomes, why that was effective because they set it up on the Kareem Hunt touchdown run earlier in the game. None of this is an accident. This is the most prepared team in football. And that's not the sexiest thing to say about a team. You'd rather say, oh, they're most explosive or they're most exciting or they're the highest scoring or they do the most this. No, they're just the most prepared. They beat you in film study. They beat you when the coaches meet on Monday morning to discuss the film. That's where they've won these games. That's where they've won these championships.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree. I think we saw that last year in the Super Bowl, the overtime rules, like all of that stuff, like the preparation, the willingness to, or the understanding of how things go in the league and knowing the rules and the new changes and everything. That's how you win games. Because if you stay in the past, you're never winning. You're never going to win the big games.
I think this is an interesting question from the text line from the 785. Until other teams decide to focus on winning instead of having their QB make the big play so they can brag they beat him in the playoffs, Mahomes will always be the MJ of this quarterback field. Cook ran the ball great, but when it came to 3rd and 4th and short, why wasn't he in the game? Why did they let Allen mess up the QB sneaks? Same as last year when the narrative on Lamar Jackson was he couldn't throw consistently, but the Ravens were insistent on having him throw a lot and got away from their game, which was running the ball. I think there's a lot more truth to it when you talk about last AFC Championship game to say that was a team that broke tendency at a really inopportune time and it got them beat. I don't know necessarily I feel as strongly about the Bills doing that because, again, the sneak have been unstoppable for them because Allen is so big. It's a physics problem.
Well, but then again, it's preparation again. They did the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
They kept going over left guard.
And they weren't prepared for it to get stopped.
No, they weren't. I mentioned this on the stream last night, the instant reaction show. And again, that's on the 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel. And I heard this from a podcast, from a Yahoo Sports podcast, though, about how Joe Brady's thing is he finds what works best for his offenses and they just do it to death. It's very triple option and air raid like, honestly, not in terms of style necessarily, but in terms of the preparation and the way you install it. And it's, hey, we've got these concepts or we've got these handful of plays. They work. We're going to keep doing them. What happens when they stop working? How do you not have the counter? They know you are going left, so we're going to go right. Or we're going to fake it and hand it off. We're going to boot. We're going to do something else. Just no willingness, no flexibility at all to get away from that one play. And I understand, it's not even like the Eagles version of it because they didn't do a true push. Like, they didn't have James Cook run up from behind or Dalton Kincaid or something and just shove Allen forward because you're right. They generally don't need to. The Eagles, it's different because it's literally just take the snap and be shoved forward. The Bills, you actually have to do something intentional, but they had no counter. They had no wrinkle. They had no adjustment. I don't know how you are not prepared to do something different. The Chiefs were ready for it. They called a designed run for Patrick Mahomes for the first time in a calendar year in the right moment, and it worked. And the Bills fell on their sword, except they were looking straight at it, and the sword said, don't fall on me, and they did it anyway. I just don't understand how in that situation you go down like that. But it's the same thing compared to last Super Bowl. How do you not know how the playoff overtime works? And the Chiefs, man, were celebrating on the sideline when the Niners took the ball. They were happy about it. Like, oh, sweet. Nice. Cool. And they all said after the game, yeah, we practiced this in training camp. Like, we remember this from St. Joe. And it happened in the Super Bowl there. It happened in what was effectively the Bills Super Bowl here. Because to be completely honest with you, I think the Eagles might have beaten the Bills had they gotten to the Super Bowl. That Bills defense, can you imagine them trying to stop Saquon Barkley?
Nope.
Can you imagine them trying to stop an A.J. Brown slant?
No.
No. Yikes. Like, this felt...
Especially with our secondary?
Yeah. Like, this felt so much like the 21 AFC Championship game. Like, the Bengals... The joke since then is the Bengals have gotten more credit for beating the Chiefs to get to the Super Bowl than the Rams actually got for winning that year's Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Did this not feel so much the same? Like, the Bills would have been treated like gods because they finally toppled Mahomes. I probably would have bet on the Eagles in the Super Bowl, frankly, if that had been our matchup. Now, I'm going to bet the Chiefs because why wouldn't you in this Super Bowl? Do the Chiefs have a healthy offensive line? Yes. Okay. I'm going to bet the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. It just is astounding to me that you are not ready in a situation like that.
Did you guys see what Chris Jones said? I believe it was on SportsCenter SVP last night.
What did he say?
He said the league keeps sleeping on Spags. As long as we have him as our defensive coordinator, no one's going to beat us.
You're absolutely right to bring that up, and it is astounding that you don't want to hire him at least to get him out of Kansas City.
Yeah.
It is kind of crazy that Pete Carroll got a job again before Spags. And that's not a criticism of Carroll. I think Pete Carroll's a very good coach, but it's not like the final memories of Pete Carroll in Seattle were sunshine and rainbows. It was like moderate dysfunction, right? I mean, you know better than me, but it was like, hey, we're not really going anywhere.
Yeah, we're spinning our wheels, and it's time to do something different. Yeah.
Spags is in his mid-60s and is on fire. I mean, he's incredible. He's doing the best he's ever done.
Everybody wants the exciting thing. They want the play caller. They want the genius. They want the guy who's going to develop the quarterback, because you don't have the quarterback, you don't win.
The young guy.
You want the younger guy like a Ben Johnson or a Liam Cohen. Like, I understand why those coaching candidates are attractive, but like, Steve Spagnuolo is the version of that on defense for me. Like, he's the one guy where you can say X's and O's wise, he gives you an advantage. And in the clutch, he's going to make the right call, the absolute right decision, not just blitzing on fourth down. It's who you blitz and where you blitz from and what you play behind it. Playing zone behind it absolutely freaked Josh Allen out on that play. That's the difference. That's the Steve Spagnuolo difference. And yeah, as long as he's in Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes / Michael Jordan are in Kansas City, they're going to keep doing this.
Yep.
Like, they're going to keep out preparing you, and they're going to keep out playing you. And they've done it again in the AFC. We'll take a quick timeout. We'll come back. We'll step aside from sports for a bit, do a little What Is Wrong With You coming up on 580 Sports Talk. It is What Is Wrong With You time on 580 Sports Talk. Start of a new week. So we've got two brand new stories competing to take the mantle of weekly champion. We are going to crown a January champion on Friday's edition of the show. So we'll have a short week champion here, a crown one on Wednesday, then our semifinals Thursday, and our championship on Friday. It's been quite a month on What Is Wrong With You already. Two new stories today. I will go first. We're going to Cocoa Beach, Florida. The cool mom threw a party where everybody got drunk. Problem is, the cool mom is an elementary school teacher. The Cocoa Beach elementary school principal and teacher were arrested after police busted a house party attended by more than 100 juveniles, many of whom had been drinking. A lot of kids. Cocoa Beach Police Department said officers responded to a home on Sunday and observed the large crowd, many of whom were wearing matching T-shirts. According to police, alcohol was available in coolers at the home owned by Roosevelt Elementary School principal Elizabeth Hill Brodigan. Police said while officers were investigating the party, a juvenile was located on the front lawn experiencing an alcohol-related medical event. He was so heavily intoxicated, they were so heavily intoxicated that Brevard County Fire Rescue had to treat them. While that was happening, according to police, Hill Brodigan was seen by officers in the driveway of her home, turning off the outside lights and entering her residence, causing BCFR to use auxiliary lighting on their vehicle to treat the child. A traffic stop was also conducted near the home, resulting in the arrest of the juvenile driver for a DUI. According to authorities, an intoxicated woman identified as Carly Anderson approached officers and said she was a teacher and had been at the party. Yeah, she taught at Roosevelt Elementary School. An arrest warrant was obtained for Hill Brodigan for child neglect, contributing to the delinquency of a minor, and holding an open house party. Anderson was arrested on charges of child neglect and contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Brevard Public Schools says both have been placed on administrative leave pending the results of a police investigation. My favorite detail of this story here, like, they threw this big party and they made shirts for the party. Like,
Smart.
yeah, like, the police are interrogating these kids, and a lot of their questions are probably being answered by I was at Miss Hill Brodigan's huge beer bash with the date and time and address on it. I have to know what the shirt said. Drinking with the principal.
Ain't no party like a preschool party. Yeah,
I got lit at Roosevelt Elementary School principal Elizabeth Hill Brodigan's house.
Leave no doubt. All right. My story is going to take us to Florida.
Oh, imagine that.
Really?
I'm going to introduce the two of you to a pair of sisters. What would it be? Septuagenarian? They're in their 60s?
Sure.
No, hexagenarian. Maybe? I don't know.
No, I think it's sexagenarian.
All right. You're right. Yeah, you're right. Sexagenarian sisters. Kathleen and Maureen Deegan. So Kathleen is 66, and Maureen, I believe, is 60. The siblings were arrested this past Thursday after they got in a fight at church where their 95-year-old father's funeral had just been held.
Oh, boy.
The sibling fight was prompted by the eulogy delivered by Kathleen at the services for Dr. Arthur Deegan, a former management consultant who authored several devotional Bible study books. This is a very religious family. Court records do not indicate whether the melee at St. Brendan's Catholic Church, that was a coincidence, occurred inside the chapel or at the reception that followed.
What is the St. Brendan, the
navigator?
Patron saint of fast food?
He was the navigator. St. Patrick is known for leading the snakes out of Ireland. However, it was St. Brendan who helped navigate the storms.
How about that?
Yeah.
All right.
Learn something.
Yeah.
Charlatans.
Patron saint of the McRib.
You know that's right. All right, so according to an arrest affidavit, Kathleen's eulogy did not mention Maureen's 24-year-old daughter, which upset the younger woman and triggered a verbal argument between Kathleen and her niece. Investigators then charged that 60-year-old Maureen walked over to Kathleen, these rhyming names are too much, and purposefully chest bumped her. Kathleen then grabbed her sister's hair and pulled it backwards. Maureen responded, according to police, by throwing strikes at Kathleen's face, although it's unclear if she used an opened or closed hand. The altercation was captured on closed-circuit television and was eventually broken up. The mutual combat resulted in Kathleen's arrest for misdemeanor battery. Maureen got felony battery since her victim was 65 years of age or older.
Wow.
They were both held overnight in county jail. The Deegans were then released from custody on their own recognizance. They have both been ordered to have no contact with each other. They live just 7 miles apart. You'll never believe it, but they're rich.
You don't say.
Maureen lives in a $2 million house. It was owned by their father.
Family Funeral Feud Part 2.
Yeah.
2 family, 2 funeral, 2 feud.
Didn't mention a niece in a eulogy, and it led to a fight at your dead dad's funeral.
I know
in a church where he was like an elder or whatever, because he wrote a bunch of devotional books.
I get that emotions run high at funerals. I can only imagine what that must be like for those two. That being said, like, why are you getting upset that, oh, you didn't mention my daughter? Like, it must have been a snub. She must have stood up there and read off the names of like everybody who was of any blood, any kin to the deceased.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Did I forget to mention little Raxalin?
All right, 2 good stories today. Who we got? Spence, I'll let you vote first.
Brendan's story.
Oh.
I'm going to vote. Man, they fought at their dad's funeral.
Yeah, that's wild. Paul in the YouTube comments called it Sister Act a Fool.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah, with a name like that, too good not to advance. That's going to be our winner on What Is Wrong With You. When we come back, it's the Eagles coming out of the NFC to take on the Chiefs in Super Bowl 59, just as it was 2 seasons ago. We'll break down what we saw in that NFC Championship game. Coming up next on 580 Sports Talk. 442 on 580 Sports Talk. Dan, Brendan, Spencer. The Chiefs are AFC champions 3 years in a row, 5 years in 6. And for the second time in 3 years, the team awaiting them in the big game is the Philadelphia Eagles. They put it on the Washington Commanders, put up 55 points, scored 8 rushing touchdowns in the NFC Championship game. 55-23 was the final score. And I think the main thing I took away from this game, a couple of things, but if you ever watched a high school football game where one team has a player that's just so much better than anyone else on the field. Like when we would cover high school football here in Topeka in the late 2010s and watch Kai Thomas play at Topeka High.
Yes.
Against some of the more overmatched teams on Topeka High's schedule. There were quite a few of those. They would roll through the regular season. And to watch Kai do the things he would do on his way to being the all-time leading rusher in city history, bobbing and weaving his way through defenses, spinning his way to long runs. Every touch, you felt like it was almost a surprise if it didn't go for at least 20 yards. And every city, every school's got a story of a kid like that, right? Like if you've ever followed high school football, watched high school football, you have a story about a kid like that who was just better than the other 21 guys on the field, and all you could do is pray he tripped over his shoelace in the open field. Saquon Barkley looks like that in NFL games this season. And he looked like that on the first carry of the game. And I think it very clearly set the terms for what the game was going to be, because the Commanders started the game with an 18-play drive. They were going for it on fourth downs and getting it. They were taking what the defense gave them. They settled for a field goal. And then the Eagles got the ball. And on their first touch, they said, hey, Saquon, go score a touchdown. We're going to call the touchdown play for Saquon Barkley. And at that moment, I had no doubt who was going to win the football game. Like zero. Saquon's just that guy.
Yeah.
And behind that offensive line against a Commanders defense that really missed Daron Payne, there wasn't much to be done.
But they're not, if you've watched them all, look the facts. Like, John Allen played pretty admirably yesterday for being the best guy on the line, essentially. And, for them, I think the problem was just the turnovers. I think they could have kept up with this team if they hadn't turned it over. It wouldn't be as bad of a score if they didn't turn it over.
I agree with that part. I think,
they would have won. They would have kept up with them.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I mean, every time it felt like they really needed to have a play, they did turn it over. You're definitely right about that. I don't think that defense had enough horses to keep up with Saquon. By the way, I went back and I looked. I picked a random year from Kai Thomas's career. I picked a playoff opener, week 9 of 2019. Kai Thomas ran the ball 21 times for 183 yards and multiple touchdowns against Garden City, including a 60-yard touchdown on the first play of the game.
Jeez.
So,
yeah,
you want the comparison? High school Kai Thomas, but a professional.
Yeah, somebody on the text line for the 75 shout out Tucker Horock. Same kind of deal.
Yeah. Insert that Horock here at Rossville.
Gabe in the YouTube comments says like watching Derrick Henry in high school.
Yeah, no, it really is like that. The most amazing play of the game was, I think, Barkley's second touchdown. It's that sweep left, and he gets great block. Or maybe was this the first one? Am I confusing my plays? He gets outside to the left. There's great blocking.
It was the first one.
That was the first one. Okay.
Bobby Wagner tripped over the rest of the guys. Yeah. They were trying to get to the edge, and they just tripped over each other.
Yeah,
in a wide open lane.
One side note: that game was a great example of why sometimes the All-Pro nominations are name recognition over talent, because Bobby Wagner had a really good year. Bobby Wagner versus an actually good running back at this stage of his career, not a fantastic matchup.
He's been pretty.
He looked pretty old.
Yeah,
he got an All-Pro because he had his 10th straight season with over 100 tackles.
Right.
Great. No doubt. Slam dunk, first ballot Hall of Famer. But he got old. And when you get old, you get slow. And when you get slow against fast.
As a linebacker, you want to be slow. Like if you're a corner and you get slow, you become a safety.
Right.
When you're an off-ball linebacker and you get slow, you become a TV analyst.
Right.
Hey, great career. You're right. But yeah, didn't look pretty yesterday. No, Saquon was awesome. The offensive line I thought was really good. And look, I'll give credit to Jalen Hurts. Credit where it's due. He was better than I expected him to be.
He tore that brace off.
Yeah, but he looked great.
he said, "F it, I'm not wearing the brace."
Yeah, no, I give him credit, man. He looked great. And Washington, I mean, look, Washington had a great year. You put it on Twitter in the first quarter. I disagreed with the timing of it, but your overall perspective I thought was correct. House money at that point, right? Like you get to their first rookie quarterback to ever start a conference championship game. Way better year than anyone expected for the Commanders. I think they just ran into an Eagles team that right now is playing football as well as anybody in the league, and they look great.
And a team that knows them, so they know how to exploit them.
Yep.
Like you've seen this
totally
the
right.
third time you've seen them in a season, and it was 1-1. The only reason the Commanders won the second game was because Hurts got hurt.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I give the Commanders credit because there was clearly, want to. It's not like they quit in the game, but there are times when you play a team like that with the Eagles who can attack you in so many ways that it can just avalanche on you. And that's what happened in that game.
I do have a couple gripes here. Can I cover the floor?
By all means.
Microphone's off. Let's kick back.
The tush push needs to be banned.
All right, stop it. I'm stopping you right there. I said I was going to give you the floor. I'm going to stop you right here. Stop the play. Because we just talked about how the Chiefs beat the Bills and went to a Super Bowl because they found a way to stop a quarterback sneak. You can't stop a quarterback sneak? Tough tatas. Too bad. I have no pity.
I'm talking about the dumb stuff where they think they can line their head, the center can line his head over the ball. There's no neutral zone at that point. These rules need to be changed. It's a rugby scrum. They need to make rules for this because it's becoming too much a part of the game. Also, if you see two guys fighting in the end zone, give both of them unsportsmanlike conducts, because there is no reason that just Marshawn Lattimore should have gotten that unsportsmanlike conduct. The guy from A.J. Brown tore his helmet off.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
That's fine. Yeah.
Also, did not know there is a rule in the NFL rule book that would let the referees just award a touchdown.
Yes,
and everyone's
patently unfair act.
Everyone's worried about the referees giving games to the Chiefs, right? That's the whole national narrative. What about there's a rule that the referees can just give touchdowns?
So I do think it would have been misapplied in the instance where it was just the hard count drew Jonathan Allen offside. But I think if Frankie Louvu had kept going Superman into the backfield, I think at that point it would have been within the officials' right
purview
to award a touchdown, award a score, palpably unfair acts.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, that's a brand new one on me too, but it is a rule that has existed in the National Football League.
If I'm correct, the rule is meant for like if fans obstruct the game.
No, not necessarily. No, it can be for like if
that was just the last time it was invoked.
Yeah,
or threatened, because they rarely actually give the score. But like when Mike Tomlin nearly tripped Jacoby Jones, that should have been usage of the patently unfair act.
The most famous example of this, you gonna do story time real quick? Most famous example of this, Cotton Bowl, January 1st, 1954. Rice is playing Alabama. Fun fact, Rice has never lost to Alabama in football. Rice is 3-0 against Alabama all time, including the Cotton Bowl on New Year's Day of 1954, when Dickie Magel swept around right end and went for a jaunt down the right sideline. There was nobody between him and the end zone. He was going to score. And then Tommy Lewis for Alabama tackled him at the Alabama 40-yard line. One problem, Tommy Lewis was not actually in on the play. He was a reserve. He was just standing on the sideline. And he just could not bear the thought of this guy running for an untouched touchdown. So he sprung off the bench and he tackled him. And the officials, because this is the rule for a palpably unfair act, awarded Rice a touchdown. The best part of the story, after the game, they asked Tommy Lewis about it, and he said, I guess I just had too much Bama in me.
One final thing for me.
Sure.
I rode the train late in the season, right? Every week I was taking them against the spread, right? Right, Brendan? Yeah. But at the beginning of the year, I wasn't expecting this.
No.
It took till the middle of the season for me to ride with the Commanders almost every week. So they overperformed what I thought was going to happen.
Did you bet them this week?
Yeah, I did. I did cash out some winnings early, though.
There we go.
I did
All right,
get a little bit back. But I think this team's on the right trajectory. And I don't know if any of you guys saw the article that popped up Saturday morning
About Dan Snyder?
Yes.
Yeah.
Shout out to Joe Gibbs for getting this thing across the line, because I think that if it weren't for him, Dan Snyder would still be the owner of this team, and we wouldn't be talking about the Commanders in the NFC Championship game.
Dan Snyder has to be so upset that he is the only rich white man to face consequences for anything he has done wrong.
Which he hasn't really faced all the
only one,
consequences.
maybe in history.
Like, hell, he could be in jail right now if he was really facing consequences.
Yeah, he did get $6 billion out of it.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
And that $60 million, he was so mad he had to pay in the fine.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It was more like $5.4 billion after his fines. Yeah.
We'll take a timeout, come back and wrap up this 4 o'clock hour, 580 Sports Talk. Wrapping up this second hour of 3 here on 580 Sports Talk. We're with you until 6 this afternoon on the Sports Voice of Kansas. Then it's a can't-miss episode of Chiefs Kingdom. They're all can't miss. But after an AFC Championship victory, you definitely don't want to miss Mitch Holthus on the Chiefs Kingdom show from 6 to 7 tonight.
How are we feeling about Travis Kelce's song choice while talking to Jim Nantz?
You know, it was a little uninspired, to be honest with you. I just, he's always got a song in his heart.
I think he's tired. I think Travis Kelce feels old for the first time.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that as a criticism, but I think we're starting to see it. I think he just realizes that he's old now. And look, it comes for everybody.
Yeah.
For tight ends, especially.
Father Time is undefeated.
Think he's got one more year in him? I was just having the conversation earlier today with a coworker of ours that he said, I think this is going to be it. I think he's going to play out the contract. I think he's going to go at least next year.
Yeah, I think he'll honor the contract. One thing I got to say is, so they call it late night. It's
Jason Kelce.
Yeah, he said he was undecided what he was going to do on Sunday after he had to work for ESPN because he didn't know how many more games his brother had left to play.
Yeah, I mean, fair point.
And if anybody understands what that's like,
it's him.
Yeah, it's a guy who also played in the league and had to wrestle with whether or not to call it a career. Only 2 catches for 19 yards for Kelce, but I think there was a lot of extra attention paid to him.
Some distraction.
And it opened up the middle of the field for Juju Smith-Schuster, who
what was
I
that?
had kind of forgotten was on the team.
Can I, real quick, real fast. There's been a lot of stupid stuff said about the Chiefs and the NFL in the last couple of days. Number one, yes, you are going to watch the Super Bowl. I can't watch this, but yes, you are going to watch the Super Bowl. Shut up. Secondly, if you actually believe Travis Kelce is going to end the Super Bowl broadcast by proposing to Taylor Swift, I genuinely think you might have fewer brain cells than your shoe size. Please, get real.
It'd be pretty cool if he did.
Yeah.
We're doing talk college hoops. We got some headlines coming up. Big final hour, 5A Sports Talk next. Let's get it. Hour number 3, final hour of the day here on 580 Sports Talk. Thanks for hanging out with us on this Victory Monday. The Kansas City Chiefs going back to the Super Bowl. You tired of it yet? If you're not a Chiefs fan, I know you are. But certainly around here, it never gets old. The Chiefs are heading to Super Bowl 59. They will take on the Philadelphia Eagles in New Orleans on February 9th. We'll, of course, have it for you right here on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9. Welcome in to those of you joining us on terrestrial radio, on the web at 580WIBW.com, and on the YouTube stream, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube, WIBW News on Facebook.
On the tube.
You can also catch on the tube and on the book.
Hey, my sister just sent me a meme on Instagram, and it's a shirt of how she feels about the Super Bowl. I hope both teams lose.
Okay.
So she's one of those people that you just talked about.
So I have something. We're going to get to this as the week and next week progresses. Actually, I'm not going to be here next week, but as this week progresses, I'm sure I'll bring this up again. Give me a good reason why this is actually not a good Super Bowl. Because the internet and the social media keyboard warriors, the nerds in their mom's basement eating Funyuns, not having a real job.
Okay.
They will all tell you this game sucks and they're not going to watch and this is the worst matchup possible. I got to be honest with you guys. I think this matchup is awesome. I think these are the two teams that are playing the best football in the NFL right now. I think on one side, you've got best quarterback in the world, Hall of Fame tight end, Hall of Fame coach, more potential future Hall of Famers on the defensive side of the ball with an elite coordinator playing great ball. On the Eagles side, you've got a quarterback who I have some doubts about as a passer, but is coming off one of his best games of the entire year with the best non-quarterback on offense in the NFL this year in Saquon Barkley. Really good wide receivers that could open up a deep passing game, and an elite defense in their own right with one of the best coordinators of the modern era in Vic Fangio. You've got star power, you've got storylines, you've got great coaches, you've got great narratives, two teams that are playing well. What other than the imaginary bias the referees have toward the Chiefs is this a bad matchup?
You're just tired of the Chiefs. Like that's where it comes from. People are tired of the Chiefs.
And like I guess I don't understand because I live for this. Like I love professional football. I love the NFL. Now the NFL is like an administrative body I don't always love, but like the product of the NFL, like I love it. I've loved it my entire life. Like, oh, sweet. Rematch? We get these two teams playing well again? Oh, think of all the cool stuff that goes on. I've seen so much, a rematch, gross. Two good teams. Who cares what color they're wearing?
People love to talk about what they're not going to do or act above it. I won't be watching. Yeah, you will.
Yeah, you will. Yeah, you will.
You're absolutely going to watch Super Bowl.
How's that boycott going?
Yeah, like if you don't like football, that's fine. Like, but that's all right. Like, if you can't find something to like about the Super Bowl matchup, even if you don't have a dog in the fight, then you don't like football very much, and that's fine. Like,
I just don't understand
the department stores, the thrift stores, the national parks, the hiking trails will all be very empty on Super Bowl Sunday, and you'll have them all to yourself, and that's fine. Wonderful. You do you. But if you are a fan of football, don't front like you can't find something that is going to entertain and excite you about this game, even if it's the chance to see the Chiefs dethroned. Like, if that's your get down, that's fine. It's not our get down around these parts. We want to see history.
While I'm griping, if I may.
Yeah.
So
you're on a roll.
So the league is rigged to help the Chiefs, right? That's what the internet wants you to believe.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if Icy Allen 420 on Twitter is so convinced that the league is rigged, or like James Cook have my baby 69 is like, is on Twitter saying league rig, Goodell's in the bag for Mahomes, and like posting memes of the referees wearing red and white, if that's true, okay, fine.
Boiling an ocean to make an AI meme of Patrick Mahomes in the loving embrace of an NFL official.
So if that's true, okay, all right. Thank you for informing me of that. Out of curiosity, why haven't you made millions of dollars betting on games then? Because if that's true and you know that the league is rigged, well, why don't you bet on it and make a lot of money?
Exactly.
Once Khalil Shakir is my dad, XXX decides to tweet at me and tell me why, I'm going to be very curious about that. Because if it's rigged, you should know exactly what's going to happen, right? It's like betting on pro wrestling.
Yeah.
I just saw 4 pictures on Twitter. Like somebody took a picture of their screen, not screen grabs.
Oh, the
And
Shea Wildeboer.
It said
decision.
at FBI, at CIA, at ATF, investigate this right now.
And it was all things from the game.
Yes.
If it's so rigged,
yeah.
then why aren't you making money on it?
Yeah.
It's legal in a whole bunch of states.
Well,
if it's not legal in your state, go take a trip to Atlantic City and put a few shekels on it. Make some money, huh?
It's how people process losing in 2025. The thing they don't want to happening. It is just the way that we are conditioned now to process losing or process failure. Well, it can't be my fault.
If it doesn't go
fault.
your way,
it's
it's
a
automatically
grand
somebody else's.
conspiracy against me. Something is rigged. Something was rigged against me so that I didn't get what I wanted. I didn't get what I desired, and it can't be my fault, or it can't be the fault of the people wearing the laundry that I root for. No, this has to be a vast conspiracy. The man is bringing me down.
It's the other thing, too, that has been a negative about the proliferation of sports gambling, which I think people overreact to a lot, to be completely honest with you. I mean, I enjoy doing it. I guess fortunate. I do not have a problem with it. There are people who do, and I understand why that is problematic too. But the idea that, like, oh my God, I can't believe that the Chiefs did this and it screwed up my 19-leg teaser. Now I'm going to go broke, and my ex-wife is going to leave me again after she just got back with me when I promised her money from this 19-leg teaser. I can't believe this. Investigate the Chiefs. You screwed me, Mahomes. Like, dude, turn off your phone. Delete your Facebook account. Hit the gym. Lawyer up. Like, figure it out. Get a grip on reality. That is the biggest problem with the proliferation of sports gambling, in my mind, is this belief that if it didn't work for you, then it was rigged. Oh, freaking DraftKings, man. No. You're just dumb. You're just very dumb.
We have a lonely and isolated and angry generation of young men, and it is always young men that drive sports discourse. It's why Pat McAfee is a millionaire many times over, because he appeals to lonely and angry young men. Not only lonely and angry young men, but primarily lonely and angry young men.
Yeah, Spencer's just angry. He's not lonely.
Right. Wonderful girlfriend who I've met. She's great.
Very lovely, yeah.
No.
Sometimes jumps into the YouTube comments to rag on Spencer. It's very funny.
So no, there is. It is a, maybe lonely is not the word, but isolated. We are increasingly isolated behind our computer screens and our phone screens. We are increasingly angry about the conditions that we exist in, and so we take it out on the things that we cannot control by insisting that somebody must be rigging the system against us. That is the human condition in 2025. It goes well beyond a football game.
I think it's also the world in general. If something's different than how you view it, you automatically throw it to the other side.
Now, I will say this. If the Super Bowl ever was going to be rigged, it would be this one, because Ron Torbert is the official.
I can't.
I would not trust Ron Torbert to scrub a toilet.
They should have put Sean Hockley, because the Eagles would win, and they'd be 8-0.
Yeah, 8-0 in games that he's officiated so far this year. You want to do fun with stats for the Super Bowl?
Sure.
So this is from Jay Kuda on Twitter. He comes up with all sorts of little fun facts and puts them in like a joking format. Since the year 2002, so that would have been Super Bowl 36, first Patriots Super Bowl when they beat the Rams. The 01 season, 02 game. Every time that the Super Bowl has featured a team that goes east and a team that travels west, the team traveling toward the west has won every time.
Dang. Well, go ahead and carve the Eagles' name on the Lombardi Trophy.
However, counterpoint, Patrick Mahomes against Vic Fangio coordinated defenses in his career, 8-0.
Oh, well, go ahead and carve the Chiefs' name on the Lombardi Trophy.
Yeah.
What is more powerful, Vic Fangio versus Patrick Mahomes and their head-to-head chess match, or something that no one had ever heard of until 4 hours ago?
How many letters does the president's name have in it? What's the AFC's record when the president has 5 or
11.
fewer letters in their last name, or you get really into the weeds on numerology on this stuff because we have 2 weeks. No game on Sunday. We got 2 weeks.
What's the record of the AFC versus NFC in games held at the Superdome that are like Super Bowls held at the Superdome?
That's a great question.
I'm sure we can find out.
Because it's a multi-over Super Bowl host. So
it is.
I like that it is 2 weeks because the players should be rested. Guys can get healthy. The Chiefs are already healthy, but guys can get healthier leading into the big game. That's great. It just destroys all chatter. Because, we've noticed this in the many Super Bowls that we have covered. Spencer, you got to experience this last year. Dan, you and I have done it a bunch of times now. We're very lucky to say that. You get to Thursday, you get to Friday right before the game. We've been talking about it for 2 weeks. Like, okay, can we get to the game? Can we play it on like Thursday night maybe?
Begging to get to the game.
Please,
right?
Can we get to the game?
Let's see here. I'm looking at Super Bowls in the Superdome. 3, 4, 5. Ooh, this is not a good trend for the Chiefs. 6. Wow. Okay. The NFC is 7-1. Oh, no, sorry. I counted one in Atlanta. That's my bad. 6-1. 6-1 all time, the NFC against the AFC at the Superdome. Niners over Ravens in Super Bowl. That would have been 47. Rams over Patriots. Or no, I'm sorry. The Patriots beat the Rams. I'm looking at I'm all backwards here. I didn't do very good math on this. Let's do some headlines. We can do some math on this
the
later.
Counterpoint to all, because there's always a point counterpoint, right? Because, oh man, the AFC has sucked in Super Bowls at the Superdome. Quarterbacks who won the MVP also sucked until suddenly in the Super Bowl until they didn't, because Patrick Mahomes broke that 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I've said this before, he's the skeleton key. Yeah, whatever problem, whatever lock you present in front of him, he's going to open it.
It is 5-2 for the NFC over the AFC. 5-2.
Chiefs are going to win. Yeah, I'm confident in it.
But if they lose, it's my fault because I brought it up that.
Yes, direct your anger toward.
Some more Chiefs-Bills thoughts coming up. Also, some thoughts on the college basketball weekend that was. But first, let's get to some 580 Sports Talk headlines. Let's start in the NFL. As the coaching carousel continues to spin, we are down to just 2 head coaching vacancies in the NFL. Cowboys hired Brian Schottenheimer.
I'm so happy about this.
The Cowboys hired Brian Schottenheimer. Look, you can always start here when you're talking about a head coaching hire. Would any other team in the NFL have hired the guy you hired? If the answer to that question is no, you made a bad hire.
They were caught with their pants down. That's what this is. They wanted McCarthy. They just assumed that he would take the short-term deal. And when he said no, they did not have a backup option.
And then they were screwed because of the way the hiring cycle worked.
But the thing is, they're not screwed. Because when they need a head coach? When mini camps start and rookie camps and the draft and things like that. You know what doesn't happen for weeks, if not months? All of that. They could have had an interview today with Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator for the Eagles, who, by the way, I believe was interviewing today, if not tomorrow, with the New Orleans Saints. They could have interviewed him today or tomorrow or any day leading up to the Super Bowl or any day after the Super Bowl. They did not have to do this.
Or, there's a guy, we were just talking about it last hour, a guy at One Arrowhead Drive, a defensive coordinator.
Could have interviewed Spags. Could have interviewed Matt Nagy.
Yeah.
Could have interviewed Eric Bieniemy. They could have interviewed anybody. Do the Schottenheimers have any other kids? They could have interviewed one of them. They could have interviewed anybody. They did not have to do this.
That's Jerry Jones's whole thing.
That's the thing that's crazy to me. There was no deadline.
One of his many whole things throughout his bizarre statements and press conferences, talking about osmosis. Essentially saying that Brian Schottenheimer learned from, of course, his late father, Marty Schottenheimer, who was a great head coach. I don't think that's how osmosis works. Otherwise, Dave Shula would not have gone 19-52 as a head coach in the NFL.
the whole thing on, he was just an offensive coordinator. No, he's our coach thing that came out when it was announced was pretty funny. Also, the comfort zone line from Jerry Jones is pretty funny. I don't know if you guys have heard that.
Yeah, I mean, his press conference today was just a rambling disaster.
All about him.
Schottenheimer's career has always been bad. He has never been good.
So
Never once.
Let's sum up his career. He was quarterbacks coach in Washington with the then Skins back
with
in
his dad.
2001. Yeah, they had the
lone season.
They had the 28th ranked offense in the NFL. He was the quarterbacks coach for the Chargers 2002, 2005. Those are the only years of Drew Brees' career where he didn't look like a future Hall of Famer. Then he was the offensive coordinator for the Jets from 2006 to 2011. And wasted time with some of the NFL's best defenses in that era because they were messing around with Mark Sanchez. 3 years as offensive coordinator with the Rams. They ranked 25th, 21st, and 21st in total offense. He was the offensive coordinator at Georgia in 2015. They were 85th in the nation in offense. He got Mark Richt fired. Then he was the quarterbacks coach for 2 years in Indianapolis with the Colts. The Colts were 30th in offense in 2017. He was the Seahawks offensive coordinator for 3 years, 2018 to 2020, where I will give him credit for this. He has already been responsible for the Cowboys winning a playoff game because his game plan in the wild card round against the Cowboys was so appallingly disgusting. You talk about refusing to let prime Russell Wilson cook and losing a playoff game to Dak Prescott, the Cowboys, because of it. That's what he did in Seattle. Then he was a passing game coordinator for the Jaguars, where they were 32nd in total offense in 2021. Then he's been the OC. He was the OC with the Cowboys this last year. You saw what that was. So that is Brian Schottenheimer's career. There's never been a moment in Brian Schottenheimer's career where it was like, oh, man, this guy is a genius. This guy's got a plan. This guy is the guy you want to hire to take it to the next level. He literally would not have gotten this opportunity anywhere else. He is getting it with the Cowboys. That means you screwed up. Congratulations to the Cowboys. They will continue to be irrelevant. This is the part where I remind people that the Cowboys now have the longest drought of any team in the NFC for appearing in a conference championship game. Mamas, don't let your babies grow up to be Cowboy fans.
Hey.
Although the performance of the team is taking care of that for you.
I didn't realize this. I did not realize that Brian Schottenheimer was in high school when his dad was an assistant.
Yeah, went to Blue Valley.
Blue Valley.
He went to Blue Valley, and then he spent a season as the backup at KU.
He did. Yeah.
That's funny.
All you need to know is that the guy who is obsessed with being in the media more than anybody else in sports, Jerry Jones, tucked this hiring away after dark on a Friday night.
And then made the whole press conference about himself.
Yeah, it's a disaster. Elsewhere from the coaching carousel, some coordinator moves. The Chicago Bears, they have their new coordinators, offense and defense. They have hired Dennis Allen as their defensive coordinator. We knew that was going to happen. He's a very good defensive coordinator. Really, really good at it. This is something that a lot of folks who cover the NFL have said is kind of the ideal way to start your career is to have as a head coach, is to have the hot shot offensive coordinator, especially if they're young, because you hope they're going to be there forever. The offense stays consistent while they're there, etc. And then you bring in a veteran defensive coordinator, specifically one who's a failed head coach, because they're probably not going to leave. And then your defense can stay. And if you ever need to bounce something off, like, hey, Dennis, when you were with the Saints, what did you do in this situation? And then Ben Johnson can go, oh, okay, that was really stupid. I'm going to do something different. Like, really good position to be in. So I actually like that hire for the Bears. Their offensive coordinator is Declan Doyle, who has previously been the passing game coordinator and tight ends coach with the Denver Broncos since Sean Payton took over. He had previously been an assistant with the Saints. He's a Sean Payton guy, which makes sense because Dan Campbell, who Ben Johnson now falls under that tree, is a disciple of Sean Payton. So now that tree is starting to expand a little bit more. Here's the interesting thing about Declan Doyle. Dan, do you know who his dad is?
I do not.
Does the name Chris Doyle ring a bell?
No.
Do you remember the scandal at the University of Iowa football program a couple years ago where Kirk Ferentz's longtime strength coach had to be fired for saying all sorts of racist stuff toward black players?
Oh, yeah. And then Urban Meyer tried to hire him in Jacksonville, and that got shot down like 2 days later.
It was such a disaster that they had to hire him and then 48 hours later fire him. Yeah, this is this kid. There's like 4 families in
It's
football.
a big day for Declans, though.
Yeah, huge day for Declan.
Huge day for the advancement of Declans everywhere.
Dan, your Seahawks have made an offensive coordinator hire as well. Originally thought they might get Hank Fraley, the offensive line coach from the Detroit Lions.
They really wanted him, and they screwed the pooch.
Yeah, sounds like he's going to stay in Detroit. Well, his wife said they were going to stay in Detroit. That would have been an awesome hire. They go with Clint Kubiak instead. So here's the upside and the downside from my opinion. Non-Seahawks fan, non-Saints fan, fan of the team where he was the wide receivers coach for 1 year. By the way, KU went winless that season in football in 2015. A lot of people who cover the NFL pretty much have agreed that Kubiak got a raw deal if the Saints, like their roster sucked. Like it just wasn't a good team. Dennis Allen was a bad head coach. Can't blame too much on him. That being said, I've heard for like 6 years in a row now that Clint Kubiak is the next big thing, and he bounces around jobs like it is his job. He won't stick anywhere. So maybe he has some good ideas. Maybe he just needs the right situation. I don't know, but he's the new Seahawks offensive coordinator. How good he is with offensive lines, don't go check the Saints offensive line.
Well, they have any bodies.
No, they suck too. They just don't have talent.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing for Seattle. They got to fix the offensive line because they got a quarterback who can really rip it. They've got 2, I think, talented, I would say above average running backs, and they've got above average talent at wide receiver with Metcalf and Smith and Jigba. They can't block. They couldn't block anybody. That was the problem. They had an offensive coordinator that couldn't get it through his thick skull, that they couldn't block anybody. And at least if Clint Kubiak comes in with the knowledge that, hey, we can't really block anybody, we got to mitigate that as best we can, then maybe it can work. I don't know. Like, I'm not underwhelmed. I'm not overwhelmed. I'm just kind of whelmed. I hope it works out.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine.
Yeah.
Which would you have preferred, Clint Kubiak or another year of Ryan Grubb?
Kubiak. I mean, better the devil. Better the devil you don't know.
All right.
Yeah.
Spencer, you got a headline.
Yeah, we'll go to the AP top 25 polls that just dropped today. For the women's side, K-State has dropped the spot to 11 after their winning streak ended on Saturday at Colorado. And again, will be without Aoka Lee for most of the rest of the season. KU men, they move up a spot to 11 despite losing in double overtime to Houston on Saturday night.
Number 1 teams remain unchanged in both polls. UCLA, number 1 in the women's. Number 1 beat Tennessee. That was a banger of a basketball game on, if you watch that one after the KU Houston game. A really good game on Saturday night. Auburn, Duke, Iowa State, Alabama, Florida, entire top 5 unchanged in the men's poll. Houston's up 1 spot to 6. Mentioned KU up 1 spot to 12. Texas Tech into the poll at number 22, and that's it for the Big 12.
Down here for the conference.
It
what we keep hearing.
Really and truly is. That's going to do it for our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We're going to get some college basketball and wrap up our thoughts on the AFC Championship game as we go. But real quick here, want to tell you what's going on at Great Life this January as the turn rounds to February. It's still a new year. You've still got new fitness goals, and Great Life is the place to become a member and help you accomplish those goals at one of their 8 fitness facilities in Greater Topeka, plus the 5 golf courses. That snow is going to melt eventually. You're going to want to get out and play some golf. Great Life's got 5 wonderfully kept, outstanding, and challenging golf courses, plus Top City Golf up in North Topeka, where you can play the Top Tracer once it gets, a little warmer. You maybe get out there and mess around with the golf simulator. That's always a good time. But right now, if you are a Great Life member and you refer a friend and they become a Great Life Fitness member, you can save up to 32%. Both of you can save 32% on your membership. For more details, go to greatlifetopeka.com. College hoops, we come back. How the hell did KU lose that game on Saturday? We'll talk about it next. 532 on 580 Sports Talk. Dan, Brendan, Spencer chilling with you on this Monday afternoon. There was college basketball on Saturday. I wanted to get to this.
Do we have to?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Spencer, you were there at Allen Fieldhouse on Saturday. Kansas loses to Houston in double overtime, 92-86. And look, it 1 in a million for Houston to win that game. Their win probability was 0.04% when DeJuan Harris went to the free throw line with 18 seconds left in the first overtime. Everything had to go way, and it all went that way for Houston just to get the game to a second overtime. But at the same time, bare minimum execution sees the game through for Kansas. They're up 6 with a minute left. They're up 6 with a minute left. They don't get a shot away the rest of regulation. They're up 6 with 18 seconds left, and a reliable veteran free throw shooter misses 2 free throws, and a reliable veteran player in Zeke Mayo, who's played a lot of basketball, misplaces the inbound pass, leading to a tying 3. And then
That was ridiculous.
I think that Houston made the toughness plays in the second overtime, and it was a little bit of, I would say, a little soft from KU in that second overtime. But I have to imagine they were a bit shell-shocked. I have to imagine that building, Spencer, was shell-shocked in a way it does not usually get shell-shocked.
Yeah, it was a very weird ending to the game. Like, it, as I mentioned earlier, my good, bad, and ugly, it just felt different, like a good, different vibe, like a great Saturday night matchup, and students were out in full force. And then not having KJ Adams is hurting them a lot more than you probably expected them.
Certainly hurt them in the overtime when they lost Flory Badunga, who played great.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Flory,
He's a freshman. Like, when he fouls out like that, that's a freshman. Like, that's something you probably won't do when he's a senior.
I wish KJ had been there. You know, who knows how different the game is if KJ is out there, because you see Flory less, right? I mean, he wouldn't have started.
Mhm.
He would have played fewer minutes. Also, he wouldn't have had to see AJ Storr in the clutch, though. This is why, after last week's game, I said I was not ready to go as far as to say he had turned a corner, because he was terrible.
He couldn't hit the broadside of a barn.
I mean, it was just bad. And it's not just AJ Storr's fault. I mean,
Yeah.
Rylan Griffin was awesome, but he wasn't perfect in the final moments. DeJuan Harris is a great free throw shooter. Has been on the radio broadcast for KU. I was listening on my way home from Washburn's games in St. Joe. Said DeJuan makes one of those free throws, we're at home having a cocktail right now, which was a very funny line. And was also true. Like, everybody is celebrating, and it's, you know, everybody's partying at the Hawk on Saturday night. Well, they were doing that anyway, but having a fun time partying at the Hawk on Saturday night if one of those free throws goes in, or if Zeke, who I love Zeke Mayo, if he can get the ball in bounds, like that's it.
Yeah,
that's all you need.
It's just those mistakes in execution. Like, it's one thing to say, oh, you missed a shot, or even like, oh, you missed a free throw. Like, that happens.
Mhm.
The stuff that doesn't ever happen to KU is the stuff where you 6-point lead, a minute left, and you don't get a shot up the rest of the game.
Yeah, terrible.
Is a shot the rest of regulation. You throw that ball away with 5 seconds. You take that 5-second violation when you know you've got 2 timeouts in your hip pocket. Those are the things. You would have surprised me less if you had told me that a UFO had landed at center court at Allen Fieldhouse than if you had told me that KU would lose the game like that in that building.
Mhm.
Even to a team like Houston, who I think they showed all of the traits about them. They're tough. They're fearless. They make winning plays. They're physical as hell. They could D you up. They're big. They make it hard for you to run good offense. Everything that makes me believe still that Houston is going to win the national championship. It was all on display on Saturday. And KU still should have won that game. That's why, like, they moved up a spot in the top 25. I wouldn't ding them for that loss.
Yeah.
Like, it's just you're just shell-shocked when you lose a game like that. Like, that's what Bill Self looked like after the game. That's what Hunter Dickinson, the players with the podium, looked like after the game. Just could not believe that sequence of events transpired in the way that it did. I bet it doesn't happen again. I would hate to be UCF tomorrow night.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be them either.
Yeah.
I want to gripe about something really quickly. I'm sorry to be negative on a day that generally is really happy here on 580 Sports Talk. we've hit the point of the season where we've run into the same KU basketball tropes that we've now run into every season except one since 2017. Because that team was incredible. The Frank Mason, Devontae Graham, Josh Jackson year.
Yeah.
We didn't hear this that year, but every year since, except for one, we've heard this is the most unlikable team of the Bill Self era. This team does not have any veteran leadership. We heard it was such a big thing. And you must say, well, everybody loved Devontae Graham when he was a senior. Everybody loved Svi. Guys, it was such a strong sentiment on social media. Multiple players brought it up in their senior day speeches that we see all you guys who talk badly about us and we use it as fuel. That is something that happened for a team that went to a Final Four. A team that won a national championship heard that midway through the season. Other than Ochai, this team sucks and has no heart. Okay? Every year but 2020, since that year, this comes up. And we've now hit that part of the season. It's late January. Can you believe it, Dan? Dan, you've covered this KU team for a long time. Can you believe that we are in late January and there is consternation among KU fans? Can you believe it?
Yeah, you can set your watch to it.
I'm not trying to say that this team is fine and totally fine and everything is rosy and there's nothing wrong, because there is. Like, that game is an embarrassment from Saturday. There is no question about that. But there's no leadership on this team. They're no fun. They're unlikable. Come on. I disagree with all of that, to be completely frank. If you don't like them for whatever reason, that's fine. But to universally paint with a broad brush and say this is an unlikable team, I don't think is correct. Also, this is going to sound, heretical. Is that how you would say that word?
Yes.
To a KU fan, given the streak and all of that. Too many fans and other people in the media put way too much attention on the Big 12 title at this point. Bill Self has openly said that is not our biggest concern anymore. Listen to Bill Self. That is not the biggest concern anymore.
It's the regular season title now is so dependent on who you play and when you play them.
Yeah.
Because it's not the round robin anymore. So it means less than it used to. It just does. Like, it's unfortunate reality of the way college basketball works now, but it's true.
It is true.
And I think it's true across all leagues. And that's what made the Big 12 kind of special, is it was a power league that still had the round robin in place that you can't do in a league like the ACC or the SEC. You could do it in a 10-team Big 12, and that made it special. It made it unique, and now you don't have that anymore. So, yeah, it becomes a little bit more like, hey, yeah, we still want to win the league, but we want to be our best version of ourselves to go win the big thing, because they've had a taste of the big thing, fairly recent history, and you want more of that.
Yep.
And if that comes at the expense of the Big 12, nobody complains. So that was what happened at Allen Field. Again, it's remarkable. But I would not want to be UCF tomorrow night. They are going to feel like they got hit by a Mack truck.
Maybe Johnny Dawkins will game plan this time.
Wouldn't hold my breath. K-State went and got themselves a feel-good win on Saturday. Their 11th win in less than 3 years against a top 25 team at Bramlage under Jerome Tang, which is a remarkable stat. And frankly, that was a better version of West Virginia than the team that dressed and beat KU in Lawrence, because Hansberry played. Although he was so bad, maybe West Virginia would have been better off if he hadn't played, because he went 2 for 11 from the field. It goes back to the point, CJ Moore on Thursday, we asked him for just kind of a quick hitter thought about this game, like what would have to happen for K-State to get right and snap their 6-game losing skid, pull off a win over a top 25 team. He said, look, Doug McDaniel has to be good, and Coleman Hawkins has to be good. That's a given. But Doug McDaniel has to be good. This team is only ever going to be as good as Doug McDaniel is. And Doug was awesome in the first half. And not coincidentally, KU built a 24-point lead. And to West Virginia's credit, they signed up for 40 minutes. They made a run. They tried to make that building tighten up a little bit. Javon Small is going to be an All-American, which is baffling to me that he's gotten that good. Never would have guessed that, but credit to him. But West Virginia never got within single digits. They never were able to extend out a run far enough to really make K-State sweat. And the reason they couldn't do it is because every time K-State needed something good to happen, David Gasson made it happen. And I'm so happy for David Gasson. You know, people want to talk about this K-State team and tell the story of this season in the context of how bad the transfer portal is and how bad it is to build a team through the transfer portal, and NIL's the devil, and all of this. Like, that's how we talk about K-State basketball 2024-25. It's the transfer portal's fault that the program is where it is. Dave Gasson came in through the transfer portal, And this is an example of why it's a good thing, because David Gasson was out of the mix at Virginia Tech and came to a place where he could play, where he could develop. He developed during the Big 12 seasons. He developed in international play in a way that was extremely useful to K-State, him getting a chance to represent his home country in some summer basketball competitions. And he has become a far better player than I ever expected.
Oh, yeah.
And he's the heart and soul of this Kansas State basketball team. And the good things that happen, yeah, they need their best guys to play well, but David Gasson is one of their best guys. And he is certainly their most consistent guy. And he is Mr. Wildcat as far as this year's team goes. And that's the kind of thing that can happen with the transfer portal too. You know, we can look at the negative, but the positive is a kid like this doing what he's doing here at Kansas State that he's ended up having. And I said it before, I'll say it again. Man, give that kid, bring the house down on senior night for David Gasson, because that kid is leaving it all out on the floor in his final year as a Wildcat. Quick statistical note for K-State. Over their last 4 games, over the last 2 weeks of college basketball, Kellis Robinette of the Wichita Eagle pointed this out. K-State ranks 31st, in the Bart Torvik ratings. We reference those. We reference Ken Palm more. Those are a bit more widely used and well-known, but the Torvik numbers are also considered, thought of very highly in the basketball analytics community.
Also, if you want to get into advanced basketball analytics, like, hey, I want to know more about these stats, but I don't know where to start because all these, various short names and everything are hard to get into. Torvik's numbers are all free. So if you want a starting point, that's a good one.
So K-State ranks 31st in America out of the 360-odd teams.
364.
In the Torvik ratings over the last 2 weeks. And they're 1-3 in that stretch. And look, it's small consolation because they went 1-3 against a tough schedule. I mean, Texas Tech has had a great season. Obviously, KU and Baylor are top 25 teams. West Virginia was on the fringes of the top 25. They're out of it because they lost twice last week, but they were in it. So whatever we think about this K-State season, disappointment, absolutely. No questioning that, and probably no reversing it at this point. But the idea that this K-State season was this embarrassment, I think we can set that aside too. Because I'm not ready to call K-State fixed or good, but I think they have an identity. They have their guys. They're playing hard. And this is not an embarrassment to the color purple or the city of Manhattan or the campus and the alumni of Kansas State University. They're representing the uniform. They're representing the program. Now, they got to turn that into some wins as we approach the second half of the Big 12 season, but Saturdays was a really good starting point. If they get that version of Doug McDaniel moving forward, they'll be a tough out.
Yeah, I commend this team, and had some criticisms of Jerome Tang for, a lot of this year to this point, but he struck the right chord recently. And I was wondering earlier, I said this to Dan earlier today off the air. I wonder if it was when he said, like, all right, well, we're gonna play the guys who want to be here, or what, that's a paraphrase of what he said, but essentially, like, look, we're building for the future. We're not gonna play, we want volunteers, not hostages, is essentially what he said in not quite the same phrasing. And since that point, K-State's played pretty well.
Yeah,
they
have.
Like, they lost to Baylor last week.
At Baylor.
But
a lot of teams lose at Baylor.
But they didn't lose to Baylor because they got punked. They didn't lose to Baylor because they looked like a mid-major team. No, they lost to Baylor because Baylor has the top 3 pick in the NBA draft. Yeah. Like, that's the reason they lost, not because they played badly.
There's never any shame in losing to a team that's better than you. And they've lost to some good teams these last couple of weeks. But then they went out against a team that the metrics have really liked and that they were in the top 25, and they took it to them for 40 minutes at home in front of a really good student crowd. Shout out to the students for showing up for their peers. Like, I get why the greater fan base isn't exactly filling up the general admission, but good for the students showing up for their peers. I thought that was pretty cool too. We'll take a timeout, come back. Final thoughts on a Chiefs victory Monday coming up on 580 Sports Talk. 549 on 580 Sports Talk. Wrapping things up on this Victory Monday. The Chiefs are headed back to the Super Bowl. They beat the Bills 32-29. Anything we haven't gotten to today you wanted to make sure we mentioned about the game? A moment that stood out, a play that stood out, player that stood out.
Felt pretty good that I got it right with Turk Wharton having a big pressure. Called that earlier before the game last week. That was pretty cool to see. Big play from him. No, I thought it was a good team win. Like, this wasn't the kind of game where Mahomes had to go insane, crazy Superman mode to win. I thought it was a very complete team win. You shouted out Xavier Worthy earlier, best game of his career by miles. Thought he was really good in the game.
I think this was the game they were waiting from all aspects of their team. It seems like we've seen it from the offense at times, mostly from the defense this year. A little bit from the special teams, but special teams made a big impact. Defense made a huge impact, and the offense made a big impact. All three phases helped to get the win.
Complementary football. Andy Reid talks about it all the time, and it has shown up big in the first two playoff victories for this Chiefs team. It was a big factor against Houston, obviously, and ended up being a big factor again. Chris Jones got pressures on 33% of his pass rush opportunities. You know, it's funny. He's only got 3.5 sacks in his postseason career. Like, he didn't have one up until when did he get his first one? Was it the 21 AFC title game?
I remember
22?
the narratives. I remember the narratives.
He never had a sack in the play. He's only got 3.5 sacks in his playoff career, which is an amazing thing to comprehend. But also, he is unblockable in these big moments. Like, it sounds bizarre. Like, you and me, Brendan in particular, like, we're not slaves to the numbers, but we trust the numbers. We are inclined to trust the data.
Mm-hmm.
We are inclined to trust the analytics and believe what they tell us, or at the very least, give a lot of weight to what they tell us. The numbers don't capture what makes this Chiefs team great in the postseason. It doesn't capture the impact of the weeks of preparation. It doesn't capture the impact that the coaching staff and the adjustments that they make have. It doesn't capture the fact that the Chiefs have stuff in the bag that they don't have to show until it's absolutely necessary. There's no accounting for that when you play the Chiefs. And you can play great football, and you can get a bunch of bounces, and you can have great players, and it can feel like it's your time, that it's meant to be, and none of it matters.
The game you were referring to when he finally got his first playoff sack, it was the AFC Championship game in the 22 season, the second one against the Bengals. Chris Jones in that game, probably the most dominant game of his career. In that game, he had 5 QB hits. In his whole playoff career prior to that game, he had 5 QB hits. 3 tackles for loss. In his playoff career before that game, he had 2 tackles for loss. He had 2 sacks in that game. He had none in his playoff career prior to that, and he had played in the playoffs every year since 2017. He was incredible. You have to game plan him out, because to a degree that you don't during the regular season. Because regular season, you've got to consider too many things. In the playoffs, it's so important to avoid mistakes. You can't. You cannot allow him to take over. Quarterbacks get it out quickly. You game plan to double team him. Game wrecker. Truly a game wrecker.
And if you're going to double team him, the Eagles are going to have to try and do that in the Super Bowl with either a center on a bum wheel or a center with a bad back. That doesn't sound like sound like a fun assignment for either of those guys. This is a funny line from the 785 real quick before we wrap things up. If Andy Reid is the father, Patrick is the son, and on Victory Monday, Josh Allen is into his Holy Spirits drinking away a loss. This is very clever.
That's a bar.
Bars, man. You should write for Mitch on his post-game codas. Anyhow, we will take one final break, come back with a final word to wrap up this edition of 580 Sports Talk. Wrap it up, walking off this Victory Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk with a final word. Brendan Dworzinski, start us off.
Same as it ever was. Kansas City Chiefs are playing for a Super Bowl. I feel bad I didn't end up putting any cash on this one. The Bills were great, but they weren't great enough. And that is the difference. You can be good, but you've never been good enough for the most part in modern NFL history. You've never been great enough. You've never even been competent enough when the Chiefs are not at their best to overcome this team when it matters the most. They're going to play for the first three-peat in Super Bowl history. And to be frank with you, I think they're going to get it done.
Spencer Dupuis, final word.
You know, I've had the last 24 hours to dissect my Commanders losing, and I'm actually happy because I knew the Chiefs were going to win this game, and I didn't want to have to go see a Chiefs-Commanders Super Bowl because I knew it was going to be inevitable that the Chiefs would have won and three-peated, right? Like, against the Commanders. Commanders aren't – you take the Commanders and the Chiefs different. Also, it would have been a weird commander in chief. That would have been very weird to talk about the Super Bowl. But, yeah, let's talk about the Chiefs going for a three-peat.
Final word for me, there's a bit, a line from the classic TV show The Wire, where Avon Barksdale is sitting at the bedside of one of his compatriots who had been shot because, well, if you know The Wire, you know that's a occupational hazard for people who are in the line of work, same line of work as Avon Barksdale. And his point that he makes in talking to a friend of his is you expect your mortality. You confront your mortality because all that has to happen is is one time you mess up. If you're a little slow, you're a little late. And then Avon, reflective, says, well, how are you going to never be too slow? Never be too late. That's the way it is playing the Chiefs. If you're a little slow, if you're a little late, they will beat you. And how are you never going to be too slow? How are you never going to be too late? The Chiefs have mastered that. That's why they're going to the Super Bowl for the 5th time in 6 years. Lots more to say tomorrow and for the next couple of weeks as we get set for Super Bowl 59. We'll talk about it tomorrow. We'll also have Michael Swain for Jayhawk Weekly. For Brendan and Spencer, I'm Dan. 5A Sports Talk. Good night.